regular travel prizes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
There is clearly something in the vicinity around here that's drawn their attention. Yes, that meerkat in the tree is just the coolest of cool meerkats. But watch how he battles when he comes down. That would be like me climbing a tree, just better.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Nikki, your guide here at Ambion Ngala. So my favorite animal in the African bush definitely has to be the zebra. Because like people, with our fingerprints, every single zebra has a different stripe pattern. And, of course, a group of zebras together is called the dazzle. How unique is that? Come and join me or one of my colleagues here in Ngala for a sunrise and sunset safari on Wild Earth.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome again to The Dawn, coming to you live from Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, where we found our very usual herd of impala out here on the open plains, busy feeding, and they've survived the dawn. They're looking, or the night, should I say, they're looking very relaxed, busy feeding. Doesn't look like too much has caused them too much drama last night, but we are going to just check around for some tracks. But as always, it is not only myself out. Tristan is out and about. He's going to be heading over to Torchwood to see if he can pick up on tracks of 3 leopards he was following yesterday. We have Tess out in Ngala, as well as Kyle and in Tswalu, and then Kim coming to you live from and beyond Pinda. We are welcoming you all on board this morning's live African safari. Good morning, everybody. Welcome again to The Dawn, to Djuma. Beautiful herd of impala. You can tell they're all very relaxed. Heads down, feeding, mixed herds, male and female interwoven with each other. Beautiful light starting to emanate from the east. Underneath this little grove of terminalias in the open. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Holgamage, and I'm joined by Theo Arnestaltainment on camera. And as always, we are very excited to have you with us. Don't forget, you can send through your questions and comments using the hashtag WildEarth, or you can throw them in on the YouTube chat stream using the all-important @FC. And if you're under 18, please talk to parents and guardians. Get them to send through an email to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And if you haven't done so already, please go over to the website, register, go over to the live safari page where you can submit your questions there. It is a very nice and cool 21 degrees Celsius. 79 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is looking like it is going to be an absolutely gorgeous day this side. Beautiful male impala there. This is that sort of moment between the breeding time, when the babies are born, and the rut, that you will find little mixed herds going to quickly disappear as soon as the males start to declare territory. You can actually see it already in some segregation of some males, and also in some males standing all on their own. The rutting season will start in sort of May time, and by that point some of these males would already have expended their energy, having defended a territory without any luck of mating, because they jumped the gun, so to speak, found a beautiful spot, but were a little bit too early in their designation of it. You can hear a little Cokie Franklin calling, and maybe a few oxpeckers as well. Okay, well, as I said, the sun looks like it's going to be shining beautifully here today. I think we might have clouds on the horizon elsewhere. Let's go have a look at a weather update.
Good morning and welcome to a nice and overcast and beyond Ngala. We have found the blonde Ross male this morning having a nice snooze next to the road. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide on safari here at Ngala this morning. Behind the camera we have Sebastian, and I am very, very excited that we've managed to find him. We know that the Birmingham Pride has been coming in slowly, like bit by bit almost. And so to find him this morning, this is the first thing that we found. And so I'm really, really excited because we know that if he's around, the chances are the lioness with the 2 cubs is here and maybe some of the other members of the pride as well. But actually, what we've noticed about this male is that he's got quite a big puncture wound in his head. And it's almost in the middle of the head. On the forehead, you can see there's a dark mark there. That's actually not a marking on his coat. It's not his mane. It's a puncture wound with blood. And so what I'm thinking is maybe he's had a bit of an altercation with the darker Ross male, his brother. And that could have been possibly over a carcass or even over a lioness. Because we know there are quite a lot of lionesses in this pride at the moment. They're all in varying stages of their cycles. And so it could be possible. We think there's one that is getting ready to mate. She's going into estrus because we've been seeing the darker Ross male follow her around consistently. And so I think what likely happened is a bit of a dominance spat between the 2 of them. And so he's got quite a neat puncture wound. It's a clear hole on the top of his head. And that was probably from either a claw or a bite straight into the top of the head during a dominance display from the other male. But you can see he is actually quite relaxed this morning. He's not actually asleep. His eyes are open and his ears are moving. But he is enjoying the fact that it is nice and cool here today. And that's because ordinarily by this time, if it's really hot, he'd already be hiding in the shade somewhere. But I know that there are tracks of other lions here, and so I'm thinking he might just be closer to the back of the pride, and the rest of the pride is somewhere around here. He's definitely heard something. So while I've been sitting here, I've been hearing lions calling, and it sounds like they're calling from a little bit further north, so from behind him. And so maybe that might be the darker male. But we also know that the sub-adults, including the 2 white Birminghams, they have been coming from further south, which is the direction that he's looking at the moment. So possibly they might all meet up sometime in the next day or 2. But I love how you can actually see all of the detail on his mane at the moment. You can see that it's actually looking a little bit, it almost looks frizzy to the edges. It looks rough. And that's a good thing. It's a really good thing because although you wouldn't think it, if you had to try and run your fingers through his mane, you actually wouldn't be able to get through it. It's actually very thick. Your fingers would get stuck. And that is super important for him in terms of protecting himself because he needs to make sure that he protects. Oh, he might call. Listen. That was amazing. And straight back to his little nap. He's actually looking like he might be feeling a little bit under the weather today. Even by the way that he was roaring, I don't know if you noticed, but one side of his face looked a little bit more droopy than the other side, and that could be because he's had a recent fight, so he might be a bit injured. He also has a broken tooth that I noticed. One of his canines is broken. And what he's doing is he's responding to the other lions that have been calling. I was very, very lucky to hear. But it's actually amazing. I don't know if you could hear the echo, but from where I'm sitting, it was actually echoing around us. One of the best sounds in the world is a lion roaring straight at you. He almost looks like he's contemplating getting up and moving. Or grooming. All right, so I'm definitely going to sit here for a little bit longer and see what he does, especially since he is calling. The other lions might call back and then we can get an idea of where we might find them.
Well, happy Friday, everybody, and couldn't help but resist stopping to enjoy a view, and I'm just going to allow you to just enjoy it in a little bit of silence.
And she sends her like a little gift box, bro. She like stuck, yeah.
Well, we started moving. Sorry about any technical issues you might have there, everybody. What a beautiful way to start the day. Beautiful way. It's a little bit fresh though this morning. It's after an overcast day. There hasn't been much thermal radiation yesterday, so the ground is a little bit colder. But it's all right. It'll warm up soon enough. We shouldn't complain about the cold, because soon it's going to be so hot. We're going to be going from shady spot once again to shady spot. So Tristan, I got a report that the Unkuhuma Pride was on their way north and east from Elephant Plains. So that's my rationale behind checking our western boundary. And I was going to go straight towards Zoe's and then towards the west, but I don't know. After that sunset, I've had a feeling to go this way down. It's also Fullermon's Cutline is the road we're going to come to now. It's a road we quite often have the lions coming in from. That comes straight from Arathusa's side. It's the way that the Talamatis came in the other day when they went out to Arathusa. They came back in, they came across this way, and then Sir Tristan had them at the dam, killing those hapless wildebeest that we have not seen since. There was a whole herd of wildebeest, and now we haven't seen another one. Maybe they killed all of them. Or they probably scared the living daylights out of the rest of the herd and they've decided to go hang out somewhere else, only to be met by another pride of lion. We were driving home last night after our scrub hare and saw a couple more impala on their own, sort of in the thickets, and just thinking to ourselves, what a life being out here, just constantly on edge. Constantly on edge. Must be quite an interesting way to experience life. You're constantly in the moment as well, though. Slowly up this little section. There's just been a little bit of rain damage to this piece. Mandy, well, Tristan is definitely itching to see a leopard as well. He's on a leopard mission. So he's going to go and see if he can find those tracks again. He was quite certain last night. I heard him on the radio saying the scat he found was quite wet and sticky. So he did the stick test. But with the vegetation being as long and overgrown as it is, makes it rather tricky sometimes, especially when it's getting dark, to put really too much effort into finding them. But he's out on a mission this morning, I can tell you that. I saw the determination in his eyes. He's going to find you one or two or three. We know Tristan might even find 4 this morning, all together doing their thing. Hello, grey-headed sparrow, just up here calling in the morning. He also watched the sunrise and he said to his fellows, how beautiful. Okay, well, there's an elephant. Let's quickly go catch up with the elephant and we'll leave our sparrow. There's a little herd of elephants crossing the road there. Looked like one had a small little baby. A very relaxed herd's been hanging around camp. The tiny little one. Just like that, gone. Vanished. Yeah, no, there we go. Go around the corner and we'll get them. Call of the blackback puffback. Ah, grey-headed sparrow had a pretty song. Everybody, they are very common. An elephant in the road. Not in the room. In the road. You've all heard the term, elephant in the room. And there's something big and undiscussed. That's a boy over there, and the herd towards my right was heading in that direction. They decided, no, we're not going to go hang out with that fellow. He's rude. And he's disappeared. Well, let's move up, see if we can get this herd, but it appears as if they're disappearing into the thickets. And if that is the case, we will leave them. Or maybe their intention is to go and have a drink. Looks like. But there's so much water around. To anticipate animals' drinking behavior at the moment is tricky. Although I have a feeling these ones are going to go straight to treehouse by their direction. Let's go stand by there. We're not far from the dam. We might get them coming through. It's often nice to just sit at a watering hole and wait. And if we do get them coming through, they'll come through on the opposite side, the western side, and we'll get a beautiful view of them across the water. And even if they don't come, I think it'll be a pretty view nonetheless. So that is what we're going to do today. We're going to try and set up as many pretty views as we can. Hey Theo, are you feeling creative this morning? Yeah? Going with the flow. Might be a few moments before they do emerge. Sometimes it's nice to just drive slowly, get the engine off. Minamu, well, first of all, we need to visit your question closely. Scorpions don't bite, they sting. I suppose they could bite the food that they eat, but I've never heard of anyone having any adverse reaction to scorpion bite, but scorpion stings. It's all about envenomation and penetration of the sort of lymphatic system. And I don't think an elephant has got too much to worry about with regards to scorpions, unless it maybe gets one behind the ear. But then I've never seen an elephant react to a scorpion. Scorpions aren't really out there to sting large animals. They're mainly out there for stinging their fellows, for courtship, and for stinging small, nosy fellows that are trying to eat them. So I reckon immunity implies they've developed immunity. So that means they've been stung many times. Surely those that survived became immune. So no, I wouldn't say immunity, but I'd say they're impervious to a scorpion sting for the most part, unless behind the ear. I think that might be quite painful for an elephant to experience. Especially some of the really, really dangerous, potentially dangerous scorpions that affect humans, such as the thick-tailed parabuthids. Okay. You happy, Theo? Well, if anything, we can just sit and enjoy the sounds of the birds this morning. And if you insist, I will have a coffee already this time of day. It's okay. A little early for my first coffee on Game Drive, but it's been done before. It's been done before. It just allow you to soak in the sounds of the African wilderness. so serene and peaceful this morning. I'm going to send you over to Tristan, see if he's having as good a time as I am. Well, let's try this again. Let's try and see if we can say good morning once more. As you can see, we're kind of just watching the sun rising up over the reserve. It's a beautiful, beautiful scene here at First Rock. It's the perfect place to kind of watch the sunrise. Always try and get here in time, but this morning we didn't quite make it before that sun came up. But anyway, it doesn't matter. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Tim Paul this morning. And, well, we're on First Rock to try and see if we can find these leopards that we had tracks for yesterday. They were just down the road here, the tracks at least, not the cats. So we've come back into this area in the hope that maybe if they did have a kill, that it's been hoisted. If it's not a kill, that maybe they finished, or they, whatever was happening, they've come out onto these rocks where it will be drier and warmer, because it's quite a chilly morning. But alas, there's no sign of anything here yet. I'm just going to check some of the little water points, and we're going to go back to where we had the last tracks, check some of the marula trees that run along there, and then we'll go down towards kind of Ledwood Dam. And if there's nothing there, then, well, I'm not sure what we're going to do. We'll try and have to figure out what the kind of plan is from that sort of standpoint. Now, where we are, if you have a look here, there's a kind of, it's difficult to see at this time of the year. In winter, it's much easier, but there's a drainage line that's actually running directly in front of me here, and this drainage line is a place where Thandi has kept her cub for a large majority of its life, for at least, I would say, 5 months of its life. It's spent, so half of it basically, it's spent in this drainage line, and so this is a place where she's very familiar, and so is he. Now, normally they don't like to hang around at the base of this rock. They normally like to actually be a little bit further to the right, so they like to kind of hang around much closer to the dam. This little drainage line leads to Ledwood Dam, not very far away at all, as the crow flies, maybe about 200 meters. So from that kind of stump that you see there, a little bit to the right of that, there's a little kind of game path that runs, and she's often walking on up and down there, and he often is just lying up in one of these places. So unfortunately we can't off-road in that area at the moment, so I'm hoping that they're not down in there for now, but we'll just check around and see, maybe they're, like I say, up in one of the marula trees, and we get a visual of them like that. We'll try and figure it out. Now, I'm going to keep quiet for a second. You'll hear that there's a whole bunch of alarm calls that are taking place from birds. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it. So there's Rattling, Systicular, and Redback Shark particularly that are making a noise. And what they're alarm calling at is, it was a Slender Mongoose. We had a brief view of a Slender Mongoose scuttling across the rocks here and into the grass towards those Rattling Systiculars and those Redback Sharks. And that's led to much displeasure from those birds. They're busy shouting and screaming. And so what we want is something like that coupled with a leopard track, and then we know we're on the right track, so to speak, and that potentially these cats are somewhere. Now, I'm also just scanning with my binos while I'm here, because from up here we have a serious vantage point to scan a lot of big marulas all across the landscape from sort of north to south, and that then allows us to be able to kind of cut down where I want to go and check. If I can't see anything in those big marulas, then I know that, okay, maybe we need to look somewhere else in order to find these cats. And if you weren't watching yesterday, basically we had tracks for 3 different individuals here. It looked like Thandi, cub, and potentially a large male. Now, which large male, I don't know, because we also had tracks for a large male leopard on Buffels Hook, on the southern side of Buffels Hook, which would normally be Tingana's route, but Mulawati has been seen there of late, and this area here, both of them could come into this section as well. There's a hyena. Maybe that bodes well for what we're actually trying to find. Looks like one of the boys. It's just coming over the rock, responding to these bird alarm calls. So you see how these animals are in tune with alarm calls, much like what we are. Look, you see how it stopped? And it's listening. So it's heard the Rattling Systicular, it's heard the Redback Sharks, And it's coming here to investigate, okay, is there something that I need to come and see? Is there potentially a leopard here that might have a meal? These are the reasons why this hyena will have walked in this direction and will be listening so intensely. They're very, very intelligent animals. So they know full well that they need to listen and take cognizance of alarm calls if they're to be successful in finding food. Nose is up. Hyena, do you know something we don't? I wonder. Maybe it's just seen our car as well and just came to investigate too up on these rocks. So Craig, if you hear the sound that you're hearing from these birds at the moment is a very harsh kind of rasping sound. Now those particular birds, that's not their actual call. Their call is different. They're songbirds mostly, and so they have a different kind of sound that they make when they're just calling for territory and for attraction of mates. When they see something that's not what they like, then they make this much harsher call, and it's actually called spishing, is the kind of term that's been used for it, and that's more because it sounds like that. I'll try and see if I can find a rattling Systicular call for you quickly, so you can see their normal call as opposed to this harsh kind of call that we're hearing now. Here, that is their little song. Whereas what we were hearing was just a harsh call, constantly saying the little bird's not starting to call, which I don't really want. But basically that's how we know, is that it's songbirds that are not actually producing song, but rather a much more intense, shrill sound is then an alarm versus just a territorial or breeding call that they're using. Unfortunately, our hyena has gone over into the thicket on my right-hand side here, so I'm not going to be able to follow it, but it's heading in the direction of where those tracks were, so we'll have to just loop around shortly and go and give it a bash and see if they're not somewhere in this area. Just trying to listen a little bit in case they're not far from here and this hyena kind of drops in, and if the hyena finds them, there'll be definitely a little bit of a commotion. You'll hear a little bit growling or something like that if they're close. Obviously they could be a little bit further away, but that hyena definitely is very alert to what's going on. It's listening, it's stopping, it's sniffing the air. There's a bit of a breeze coming from the south this morning, and that could then very well lead to this hyena smelling that maybe there's something around here, and therefore investigating the alarm calls and all the other things that are around. But for now, it's quite quiet. All right, I'm going to have a little scratch around here. Let's see if we have some luck. Hopefully we will. In the meantime, it sounds like Steve has had some luck for this morning and has already found one of the big animals that we've seen so much of lately. Well, everybody, our elephants decided that they weren't actually thirsty. They were more hungry. I think their movements were purely determined by that bull that we saw before. Now we've got the small herd. We've only got one of them that we can see. Busy feeding, grazing on the grass. The delicious grass at the moment. It just goes to show you how dense the vegetation is by the fact that, oh, it's going to have a leaf as well. Let me have a leaf. That little river thorn has been very well and truly eaten over the years. It's a river thorn or red thorn, I can't tell at the moment. But someone was asking me what are the favourite trees of elephants. Well, definitely the acacias. The thorny acacias are favoured, loved. But if you spend time with them, you'll see what they feed on. They're feeding on the silver cluster leaf, which in my opinion is one of the most bitterest trees you'll come across. Of no concern. Mouthfuls of it, and then a bit of grass, some pods. Difficult to say, Charlie. Everyone's got different hearing abilities. For example, Tristan's been hearing lions contact calling the last few days, and I couldn't even hear them. And I regard my hearing as being pretty good. So everybody's got different frequencies. So how far away can one hear an elephant calling? I don't actually have an answer. But definitely a kilometre or two. For the most part, you should be able to. And I'm actually going to have a look, because yesterday I was talking about hertzometer, and someone very kindly sent me something which I downloaded, and I want to see if it actually works. It's called a spectrometer. I'm going to have to learn how it works though. Picking up all the bird sounds, it's picking up my noises. Mandy, it's very hard to say. There's more than 20,000 elephants in the Kruger National Park, Greater Kruger, and they all have the potential to come into this area. At the moment, there's lots of elephants, but I couldn't tell you how many we're seeing. We're seeing at least 2 or 3 herds on Djuma itself daily. Okay, so my voice is throwing off in the region of the 65s to 100 hertz. There's definitely something happening here at the 5 hertz on my little phone. But it's also picking up on all the birds. Birds are also at many different frequencies. Different bird species communicate at different frequencies, so as when you hear the dawn chorus, they don't actually compete with each other. I'm going to have to play with this a little bit more to figure out what's going on. Yes, it is Minamu. Elephants are getting lost very easily. And because we haven't had much sun, it's still going to be no off-road driving for the time being. We're going to be doing lots of vehicle on-the-road-based safaris, which is a good thing. And finding whatever content along the way we can find. Big chill. We do too. We do too. Okay, well, we're going to carry on as our herds of elephants disappear into the thickets. We're going to carry on and check our western boundary for some tracks and then take it from there. Unfortunately, we're going to have to turn around as we have something in the road. Looks like it's going to be a bit of a spin and turn kind of day. There is a sort of disease called Floppy trunk syndrome in elephants, which definitely limits their ability to survive. I mean, anthrax has killed elephants before, and I remember being up in the northern Kruger when there was an elephant that actually died, and they reckon he got floppy trunk syndrome, which is, don't exactly know what causes it, but the loss of the trunk, the ability to drink, and the animal got very weak and wasn't able to feed as well. And we actually found him dead with his face in the mud, where he'd probably tried to go down on his knees to drink with his mouth, and then wasn't strong enough to be able to get up. That's how we found him. Yeah, so he died that way. So yes, I think if an elephant loses functionality of the trunk, they can deteriorate quite quickly. And in losing condition, life becomes quite hard for them, because although they don't have a high nutrient requirement, they have to be feeding all the time to sustain themselves. And if they aren't... Oh, hello. A little hyena there. One of our little youngsters. Hello, cheeky, who are you? Looks like one of Pretty's. I can't tell though. We can't go that way, unfortunately. We had a bit of a roadblock, but we can follow for a moment. Oof. Where have you been? You absolutely stink. Did you smell that? Pungent smells. Okay, well, we see where our hyena goes to. Let's send it over to Tess and Ngala, see if she's still with that very sad-looking lion.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. So the sun has come out. How exciting is this? Not completely overcast for today. And we have got a really beautiful view here. And what I'm actually doing is I'm looking through this area for the Birmingham Pride. So our eastern boundary is to my front right, and that's where the Birmingham Pride was coming in yesterday, including the two white ones. So we think it was that group of sub-adults that split off on their own. So what we're doing is we're actually checking this road to see if there's any tracks that have crossed or any view of the lions across this open clearing here. And it's actually quite cold this morning. I've had to put my fleece on. But it is quite a beautiful morning with the sun coming out the way it is. Everything is looking very golden this morning. So what I'm hoping, because it is still nice and cool, is that the lions might actually still be moving, especially because they've been so loud, they've been calling each other, that maybe they're actually trying to find each other, not necessarily just advertising the territory as being taken, but actually trying to find each other, because we have had some rain. They have been split up for a while, and I'm hoping that they'll actually be moving, especially those sub-adults, because it's the longest they've been away from the pride that we know of. I can't even remember the last time they split from the pride before this time, and it's been well over a week now, which is quite interesting. What we often do, especially now, when we can't off-road, we have to use a lot of other sensors to try and find them. So we'd always look for tracks, we'd always be listening out. But now we take a lot more time to actually stop at points where we know we can hear for quite far and listen. And so between all the different guides that are out at a time, we'll all be listening out at different times, and then we use that to try and figure out exactly where the lions are calling from in the middle of all of us. So we just make sure that we're all doing slightly different parts of the reserve. And that's exactly what we're doing today. So where I saw the Ross male this morning, the blonde male, was up to my left. And this is obviously where we think the white lions are coming from. So I'm actually going to be turning towards the south pretty soon to go and check the boundary itself and see that maybe they're not still there, coming into that water hole. Actually, very interestingly as well, we think that the Birmingham lioness with the 3 tiny cubs that we were so lucky to see the other day, we think that she's moved her den site as well. So we went past there this morning, and it seems like there are no fresh tracks anywhere there. So luckily, she has moved further away from the river. So hopefully that means that the little ones are safe, and we'll just have to spend a bit of time trying to find where they are. But I'm going to keep going towards the eastern boundary and go and check along there for those white lions. Hopefully I get to show them to you. And I'll send you over for a greeting at Pinda.
Welcome to and beyond Pinda, everybody. We have had quite a slow morning, and we have found 2 hippos who look like they're also serving. Oh, there we go. Hello. Popping up just in time. But they're looking at a very, very slow morning. Pretty cool, because this little a hippo.
Sorry about that again, everybody. You're back with us, and our smelly hyena has disappeared into the bushes. So here we go. It's about to pop out in front of us. Thank you very much. This hyena is heading in the same direction we are to look for the lion tracks. But the smell, I don't know where this animal has been lying. I was talking to Theo yesterday about that elephant carcass that we had. We were talking about it briefly on yesterday evening's show. And I was asking him if he knows what it smells like. And he got a brief little understanding of it now with the smell. But the lingering smell of a dead elephant is definitely something that if you've not experienced before, it's something I suggest you hang out for. Brent, who used to work here, found the dead elephant, and he was adamant he wanted to spend as much time with it as possible, and I was more than happy for him to do so. Because after day 1 and day 2, it starts just getting... We do have our tricks. Okay, so this hyena is going to go straight in through the block here. Phew! Been lying in something awfully bad smelling. Doesn't seem to be smelling anything. It's just sort of on a mission. Where to nobody knows. So there's a sort of pathway that comes out through to the old hyena den on the other side. If you recall, before I went away on my last stint, tracked Shadulu straight through to that side onto a Shadadeka in the tree. So if we find any leopard tracks, we'll see if we can follow up, but the ground is exceedingly hard. Let's go to the west and carry on with our plans. Please send through any questions. Maybe we can get into some discussions while we're waiting for the other feeds to get sorted out. Get into some last long discussions this morning. Oh, Woodstock, you want to know what the worst smell in the bush is? That is a pretty short conversation. I'm joking, there's a few. There's definitely scat. Predator scat is got to be the worst. But then it ranks in right there next to an animal that's been dead for more than a week. And I don't think there's a difference between any animal that's been dead for a week, but we normally look at giraffe, elephant or buffalo. If any of you remember David Gitu from the Mara, when he came down here to spend some time with us, the evokers stole a buffalo from the Unkuhumas close to Buffelshoek Dam, and old Gigi, bless his heart, wanted to go there every drive, and I'm not going to stop him. He wants to go hang out with that. The problem is the buffalo starts to get very smelly, and then the lions are defecating right there, and then you keep coming back and there's just lion poo and dead animal, and it's too early in the morning for this discussion. So dead animals, but I mean that the purpose is served because it attracts the animals or the insects as well, that like to decompose that stuff. So something smells dead for a reason, everybody. There's even plants out here called the Carrion Plant that gives off a smell of a dead animal, and it's a flower. I'll see if I can find you a picture somewhere. It's a flower. We've actually got a plant in camp, and I've had in many rest camps I've stayed in, that smells of dead animal, and it uses flies to pollinate itself. So isn't that a wonderful, wonderful trait? There's no cross-pollination because it smells like death, so it attracts animals that are attracted to death. It doesn't attract the sweet-smelling bumblebee. It attracts the carrion feeders, which means it's going to be successful in its pollen transfer. So carrion and animal scat is by far the most unappealing smells in the bush. There's a grounding earthiness to this place that we feel in our ancestors. It's a place where, believe it or not, we evolved as a human species, and anyone who's come to Africa will understand that. The connectivity that the continent has to the person and to people's souls is next level. I'm thoroughly looking forward to taking you on your next adventure when we explore all the small and big things.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. If you love to watch Wild Earth, then we are inviting you to join our Explorers program. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions. Join our guides for a chat around the fire, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn allows us to escape into nature every single day. Our first Wild Earth Explorers competition has closed, and we have a winner. Congratulations to Chantal Sleep from Benoni in South Africa.
I felt totally overwhelmed for winning this prize. I will be taking my son with me, and I can't wait to share this experience with him.
Chantal and her son have won a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala tented safari camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay and a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse.
I would like to thank Wild Earth for making this dream come true, and I encourage everybody to subscribe, to become an explorer, and stand the chance to win these amazing prizes, and so much more.
For this month, we have a brand new prize. You could be jetting off to Tswalu in the Kalahari for a 3-night stay at the luxurious Motsi Lodge. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is a call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
We have made it to the west. This is a road commonly used by the Unkuhuma Pride, Bukamuri and Shadulu when they come into Djuma. So right up at the top, there's a nice junction, a 4-way junction that I always check. I've been trying to get there for some time, but we're slowly getting there. That hyena, likely if it keeps on the same trajectory, will pop out in the next couple 100 meters. If it pops out, it might actually be in the bush there. Maria, it's hard to say. Heavy rains can often flood dens. Warthogs and many animals that live in dens can be inundated. But, I mean, hyenas have got adults. You know, the adults will be able to move the cubs if the den does get flooded. They saw it in the Mara every year. They would move from the swampy area to the more dry area. So it won't affect the cubs. They might just get a bit wet for a moment, and then the parents will move them, or the mums will move them. But we haven't checked on it again because the hyena den access is actually pretty much an off-road track. So we've been avoiding doing any off-roading until everything is dried out sufficiently. But in the case of warthogs can't pick up their piglets and move them. They're just not designed in that way. Whereas hyenas, no problem. They can pick up their cubs. But these animals seem to be aware of situations like that beforehand, like the North Clan used to move before the rains even happened. They would just sort of know, okay, here comes the forecast, and off they go, and they move completely. So it's a learned behavior. There's probably a fair amount of instinct involved as well. If you're an animal that's evolved using the ground for breeding, you've also learned that the ground gets flooded, inundated over time. But if you're a warthog and you've chosen a ground or a hole to breed in and it floods, well, there's not much they can do if the piglets are still too small to move. But it hasn't been flooding conditions, you know, I mean, warthogs and the like in burrows get heavily affected when we have floods, when rivers break their banks and actually inundate the landscape, which doesn't happen here. Happened up in Pafuri when I was last there in 2013, and that decimated the warthog populations in that side. But that was 4 or 5 meters of the landscape underwater. Okay, so Tristan is back up. Let's go over to him, see how he's getting along, if he's found any leopard tracks.
Well, it does happen that dens get flooded. I remember in 2012 we lost 2 hyena dens. The cubs, unfortunately, all died from those dens. They were completely flooded. They caved in. So it does happen from time to time. Now that we've got back with our Impala, this Impala's been shouting non-stop while we were at First Rock. We kind of heard it, and then we found tracks now, very fresh tracks, on top of our tracks from last night of these leopards in exactly the same spot. So I think they've got something here. I just can't see them or it. I've checked every single tree. I can't see any carcass in the tree. She keeps staring right where I'm parked now and just alarm calling. And there's two kind of thickets next to me. There's a little bush willow thicket and then a termite mound with a thicket on it. And I suspect that these cats are somewhere in one of these little bushes. Potentially they were killers stashed in underneath there. And I mean, for this animal to be by itself and alarm calling, and we were far from it when it started alarm calling. It wasn't because of us coming past and it being nervous, but it was here in this exact area. And like I say, there is tracks for a leopard on top of our vehicle tracks. So yesterday we were just doing circles around them. They literally must have been off the road and we just couldn't see them, which goes, you know, these are the way things go sometimes. Sometimes you kind of just don't pick them up and they're right underneath your nose. Unfortunately, there's not really much I can do other than just keep driving until we find or spot them and hope they come towards the road. But there's definitely cats that have been moving around in this area. I'm just going to reverse back and just see if I can't get anything or see anything. The last area that it was looking at when it was shouting and I arrived was right here into this bush on my right-hand side. But it is thick enough that if there's a cat in underneath there, we wouldn't even know. It's so dense in there that they could go straight into the thicket and just sit. And I'd have zero clue that they were there. So what I'm going to do is just use my binos for a second and just have a little scan inside here. I don't see any spots in there or any indication of flattening of grass. Must have just been here now, and like I said, the fact that she's alarm calling still in the same spot we left her last night is to me indicative that her lamb was killed. The last track I have is just here at this junction, scent marked on the bush, and then came round. I don't want to drive too much, but I'll show you exactly where. This is the track for Tundi, the female track that is walking just off the road there. You know, it's gone up to this bush, had a little scent mark. There's a hyena right here in front of us. Where are you, cats? Everything is pointing to there being a kill here. I just can't find it. But you can see the tracks there quite clearly. Those weren't there yesterday afternoon or evening. Oh, it does, yeah. And sometimes they can follow them all night for 10 kilometers. They just follow behind them. So, you know, long way is the answer to that. But in this situation, I think this hyena is like us, is thinking there's leopards here, and with the alarm calling, it also knows something is up. You see how its nose is to the ground? Where it's walking now is where the big male leopard walked yesterday. He came down from there. Look at the nose. Maybe just sitting with this hyena will actually lead us to where these cats are. Maybe the hyena will head in the direction. Don't look at me, I'm waiting for you. You've got the sophisticated nose. It's almost looking at us as if to say, well, where are they? I came here because you're here. Where exactly are these leopards? And I'm asking myself the very same question, little hyena. You need to help us in order to find it. I must admit, this is very frustrating in some respects, because you know that you're on top of them, but you just can't figure out where they are or can't see them due to the length of the grass. It makes it all the more annoying in many ways. So let's see if this hyena just goes into this bush here. Like I said, we'll know straight away if there's a kill. There'll be a little scuffle, and there'll be, a little noise from hyenas. You see, let's see if it goes straight to that bush or not. Nose is down. There we go. You see, straight to the bush that I was talking about. Let me turn around quickly. So where it's standing right now is where the impala is just staring at, just alarm calling. So maybe inside here somewhere. Look, you see this hyena? Its nose is to the ground.
Observations, there are leopard tracks on Gary Buffelshoek. Not close to Kruger boundary. Just going to try and follow.
See if this hyena finds anything. It's certainly interested in what's going on inside there. I suspect that we have a cat that was sitting in there or around there. Look, the nose is down. Sometimes what you'll find is they do these circles, so they walk like this, nose to the ground, sniff, 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 sniff. Wait, I've lost the track, let me turn, and they just keep doing this until they eventually find what they're looking for. Their noses are so sophisticated that they eventually pick it up and get to the right place. I'm going to just try and see if I can kind of catch up with it and see where it goes. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Tswalu and see what they've been up to, and so that they can say good morning.
Well, dumela and good morning to a very chilly Tswalu Kalahari. And it is very brisk this morning. Good morning. My name is Kyle. Behind camera is Craig. And thank you so much for joining us this morning. It is a very, very cool morning. I told Craig this morning it literally feels like the onset of winter, of how cold it really is. We have been taking it very easily along the mountainside this morning. We decided we are going with open arms to see what the Kalahari has to offer. And upon coming close to the dam, Craig's eagle eyes spotted something laying in amongst the grass. And looky what we have here. Yes. It is the two boys, the two dominant male cheetah within this given area. And it looks like they're just taking it very easy right now. But it's still very early. The male on the right giving a good scan south of their position. And we didn't have to work that hard this morning. Feels like I got the day off. So I think what we're going to be doing is sitting with them and seeing how the morning... Oh, good morning. Seeing how the morning pans out with these two lovely dominant individuals. We initially got stuck onto tracks coming down south here of Momin 2, and I would like to try and find her because the sibling, the little female within that grouping, her hip isn't looking too great. I've been following her for the past 2-3 weeks, and she's not looking in the best condition. So we'll stick with these boys for a portion of the morning, see what they do. And then maybe we'll go and try and find that mother and two. We also got news that the Makala alpha female has given birth to brand new pups, which is very exciting. Veronique actually was lucky enough to see them. I think it was yesterday. Because it was so cold, I think, in the burrow, she decided to bring these little ones out to sunbathe. Because they are so tiny now. So, we have got options available for us this morning. It's always lovely having that. And these sleepy cats. But as I've mentioned before, it's a very productive area. There's a lot of traffic in and out here. And hopefully we can get lucky. Oh, it looks beautiful. Jeez. Craig's just going to show you how beautiful it looks here behind us with the sun illuminating the mountains. And look at this, folks. Absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. On the left there, that is Croissant Mountain. But just looking so beautiful, the shadows and the illuminated parts. And we want that sun. Oh yeah, there it is. We want that sun this side because it is very cold this morning. So, the way you guys can communicate with us, obviously questions and comments, please don't hesitate. If you're under 18, pop us an email at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And then if you would like to, if you're over 18, just register on the Wild Earth website and then submit your questions. Is there anything you would like to know about this wonderful and diverse place? I will answer you to the best of my ability. Donovan, in Tswalu, the population of cheetah is really booming. My very short period being on this wonderful land, I can account for over 30 different individuals that I've seen over the past 4.5 years. And that's just the individuals that we've had the luxury of seeing. You've got some individuals that are very wild and very skittish. Just the low activity the low vehicle amount on Tswalu. Some of these animals don't have the day-to-day interaction for them to become relaxed. So they hear a vehicle, they see a vehicle, they are absolutely gone. So within Tswalu, yes, they are thriving. Through parts of southern Africa, so we were talking about Botswana and Namibia, where cheetah still do roam wild. I would be lying to you if I told you the status of cheetah in that area. They've got healthy populations, but I don't know truly if they are thriving. They still, unfortunately, come into contact, even to this day and age, with the local farmers, and they are, unfortunately, negatively affected from their roaming range, which would be quite vast in those areas. Wow. And in areas of Africa, unfortunately, they are still hunted. In South Africa, it's a no-go. You're not allowed to hunt a cheetah. But through other parts, you are still allowed, with the correct permits, you are still allowed to hunt a cheetah. And there'd be a certain quota within a given year, unfortunately. But the Kalahari system is a very, very healthy and viable habitat for these cats. There's been big studies done on them, and in these systems, the Kalahari system itself, and the Kalahari system is an absolutely perfect area for cheetah. Although in my experience, cheetah are very adaptable cats. I've seen them hunt under the cover of darkness, I've seen them hunt midday, and I've seen them hunt in very, very thick bush. Just the general sense, you'd think a cheetah would only hunt in, grassy, open, big plains, treeless plains, like you'd think about the Serengeti. Although I've documented and been able to work with cheetah in the Eastern Cape, and that area is a vegetative group referred to as the thicket biome, hence the name thicket, about 2.5-3 meters in height, and you have these areas of almost impenetrable thickets. And I've found cheetah hunting and flourishing in that region. So a really adaptable cat in so many senses. And being in a little band of brothers like this here, it's a very, very strong, united bond. And obviously they can bring down large animals. Aaron, I couldn't agree with you more. It is always a privilege and a wonderful thing seeing these very elegant and very sometimes shy cats. Their status is obviously not the greatest worldwide, about 7,500, so seeing them is just such an absolute treat in this day and age. And that's where we have to educate everybody on the status of these animals, how to protect them, and especially the young generation. You know, the young generation, you guys must think about, you know, things on how we can protect these animals, because young minds aren't structured. They are loose and wild. And that's where we can, you know, hopefully harness these beautiful and untamed thoughts to hopefully protect these animals in the future, so that future generations thereafter can see cats just like this in these pristine and beautiful habitats. I just love cheetah. I find them very, very active. Out of all the cats, I think I haven't had the luxury of viewing a leopard like Tristan and Steve and Trish and Ngala have. But yeah, I find leopard also very active. But my personal work profession, cheetah is definitely my favorite larger cat to be in and around, because of their high activity level. They are always active. Well, right now not so much, but the activity level is higher than, for example, a lion. Looking very beautiful, set in amongst all that illuminated sourgrass. Oh, it's going to get comfortable.
Well, Carl, you might not get to see leopards like we do, but we don't get to see aardvarks like you do either. I had some tracks now of an aardvark crossing the road. I've yet to see one in the Sabi Sands. I saw one with our thermal drone a couple of years ago. That was pretty cool. I had quite a few tracks, but haven't yet seen one with my physical eyes. But cheetah, that'll do. Eh? Right now we've got a road of no tracks. So this is the western boundary called Triple M. This takes us to the Gowrie Gate, and if you drive straight down that will take you to Makala, which is the sort of world famous property. And I think Triple M's got something to do with the name. I think Mala Main or something in that regard. But we just wanted to see if anything was coming in from the west, so we just drive this road very carefully. The road is very hard. You've just got to check the little sandy spots on either side of the road to see if anything's crossed. In or out. Sun is definitely starting to warm up. We just had visual of hyena, and we are being played with by Tundi's cub. I think it's Tundi's cub. It's either Tundi's or Kuchava's. It's a small male leopard that is playing games, because while we were with that hyena, we came back and the tracks are on top of our vehicle tracks. He pooed on the road and then has walked and now is gone. And the hyena itself is having
the same problem we're having. It's doing loops around, knowing that there's a leopard here, but just can't find it itself. So we've been trying to follow the hyena a little bit. The tracks came straight to the rocks here, and there's no sign of anything on the rocks. I don't know what this cat is doing. Like, it could explain if it's Kuchava's cub, because he'll be a little bit more kind of wary, and he'll just dart off the road slightly when he hears the car coming, and then just sit and hope that you don't see him. But definitely, like I say, toying with our emotions a little bit this morning. I don't even know now where to go from here, because the last track we had was walking straight to where we are now. This hyena started even salivating. It seemed like it was so excited, and nothing. What I will say though is that where he pooed on the road, which is, I mean, as fresh as you could possibly get, given that it looks like it's, you know, where we were driving. So he kind of pooed on the track, and it's still warm. He hasn't eaten a lot. You know, it seems as though there's not very much food in that scat. The scat looks as though it's quite small. Which is interesting, because, you know, I thought they would be on a kill for sure, but maybe that male leopard track that we had stole it, and this young male didn't get much. So there's no tracks here. Where did this cat go? The problem is, once he goes onto the rocks, you're not going to find any tracks at all. This is one of those cases where you know that they're here, you just can't find them. So, and I reckon if we could walk, we would find him pretty quickly. I think he's hanging out the road, and as soon as we go past, he just comes back out again. I mean, it could be a different cat altogether. It might not even be, but it's a small male, that's for sure. It's definitely not a female. There's another little pan here, and I know Thandi and her son absolutely loved this pan at one point, but now it's become so overgrown I can't even actually see the water that's in front here, which is amazing. Alright, I'm gonna just scratch around. There's not really much else I can do, and hopefully we'll get lucky in the meantime. Let's send you across to Pinda.
Okay, welcome back again to And Beyond Pinda. I hope we're a little bit more successful this time. We have found an elephant bull who's in must and is feeding. You can see his trunk reaching up there, happily feeding away, resting his leg. Resting his leg. Resting his leg off, which is the quickest way to tell if an elephant is in must. Oh. It's so interesting how they gently kind of step over things like that. Resting his leg up like that. Okay, we'll try my introduction again. I think you cut away from me just in time last time. I'm Kim, and we have Glenn behind camera, and we have been working very hard to firstly find animals, but also find signal spots, because, as I think you've realized, we are struggling here a little bit on. We are struggling here a little bit on with to be able to but what
Welcome back, and we've just gone over to Simbambili, an elephant with a little bit of a funny nostril. Well, I don't know if you heard it just before. They're coming straight towards us. Let me just move back slightly. They're coming straight towards us, which is often really a cool thing when you position yourself beautifully. Elephants haven't reacted to our presence, which means that they might come out perfectly into the open and in front of us. So I'm just going to try get Theo in the right spot. How's that? Okay, there's a mama with a couple little babies. Oh, she's going to walk behind us. I'm going to keep going. Let me try and anticipate her path. She's very relaxed, which is a good thing. we're just going to wait here. And she's going to come out in a moment. She's got a very interesting nostril today. I don't know if you heard it. Oh, tip of her trunk has actually damaged. We might see it as she feeds. She seems to be missing the tip of her trunk. It's an unfortunate thing. We do see it out in the wild, elephants with tips of trunks missing due to possible snares they've encountered out in the wild, which is a very sad state of affairs, but they seem to just sort of get on with it. I've seen elephants with half a trunk that are able to sort of still maintain their ability to feed. Obviously, it's not the perfect world, but they're still able to carry on. Clearly very relaxed. Look at these little ones. Elephant bulls, only in their late 20s into their 30s are they able to mate, but they don't generally mate until late 30s into the 40s. Big dominant bulls, but females as early as the age of 9. Hello, my girl. Hello, naughty. Come and show us how big you are. Yes. Yeah, we must run away. You're so scary. I just love it when elephants do that. Oh, a bird I haven't shown the viewers yet this season is just above this elephant's head in the top of that tree. Redback Shark. We've had quite a few of them, but haven't yet been able to get one on camera for you. The male Redback Shark, and one of our migrants. Very shrike-like appearance. That mask, or that beak, got a little bit of a tip to it. Okay, Theo. He's having a bit of a sneezing fit on the back. Well, that Redback Shark will be hoping that the elephants displace some insects for them. Stuart, the calving interval is about 3 years. So they have a 22-month gestation period, and then they suckle for a very long time. So after 3 years is about the sort of time. So that's a long time. It's a long time with a 22-month gestation and 3 months between. It gives enough time for the youngsters to sort of re-emerge or to gain their strength. They're not as fast breeding as many of the other animals, but that is also because they are so big. So the Redback Shark was looking for these animals to be disturbing some insects, and I've just spotted one here at my 9 o'clock. Can you see that green thing at the bottom there? It's a giant praying mantis that Redback Shark would love the elephants to disturb for it, and then it would go and grab it. Oh, not that one. There we go. Look at that fellow. How juicy and large he is. Very camouflaged. A predator in his own right. Looks just like the vegetation. So that flashing ability that large animals have, you'll have many bird species that will follow large animals, even us, because we disturb insects as we go. And that would be a delicious meal for a bird. Ooh, it's moving. I wonder if we're going to see him catch anything. Remember, he's camouflaged not just to prevent himself being seen by predators, but to be a predator as well. They say to see a praying mantis is good luck. If one visits you, it's wisdom. So I suppose this one visited us because we stopped right here and it just stood out for me. He's playing his harp now. Close to 8-9 centimeters, everybody. It's big, very big. Size of a leopard track. So camouflage obviously saves animals a lot of energy when it comes to having to avoid predation. If you're constantly having to run away from whatever it is that was trying to eat you, can you imagine the energy that would cost? But if you are able to remain unhidden or undetected, much better chance of you saving huge amounts of energy, which you can then channel into doing whatever it is that you do. So camouflage is some of the earliest forms of predator avoidance and predator evasion. That's why we see it in so many young animals. So many insects employed. It's an ancient strategy. Insects, bearing in mind, were around long before mammals. Thanks, Jacqueline. It just was something that stood out there for me. Now that he's turned sideways, you can clearly see it's a praying mantis, but the way he was positioned, or she was positioned, was I just saw a big fat bottom, and I actually had to use my binoculars. So very well camouflaged for this time of year, but bearing in mind the vegetation is going to change. It's going to get brown again, so it works really well when the conditions are like this. But I don't think praying mantises have the ability to change their coloration. Though you do get so many different varieties. I mean, the all-time best camouflage in the world has to be that of the stick insect. Back to basics, everybody. I'm going to look like a stick. A giant stick. Until an elephant comes along and decides to eat the stick, realizing it's not a stick after all. Redback Shark is back. I wonder if he's going to spot this. He's wondering, what are they looking at? Okay, we're going to move on and do a little bit of a loop here on Simbambili. While we do so, let's send you back over to and beyond Pinda.
Welcome back. Sorry that it keeps ending so abruptly, but our elephant has moved out of the thick trees, and you can see how beautiful those tusks are. I mean, how enormous are those? They're just so impressive. You can also now see he's got some fluid coming down just behind his eyes. Those are called temporal glands, and that is yet another sign of the fact that he's in must. And although he's not acting too grumpy, he has been kind of showing that other vehicle that I think you can see in the background. He's just been telling them to keep their distance. You know, just making sure that they don't stick around or don't hang around too close to him. Generally, when elephants are in must, they are a little bit less amiable. They can be quite grumpy and quite aggressive. But what I was also just saying to Glenn, which is quite interesting, is that this elephant, I think I mentioned it earlier, there were two of these beautiful, they're called tuskers, with these enormous tusks that came to us about a year ago, or just less than. And they come from a reserve called Tembi, which is very close to here, to Pinda. But the elephants seem to be a lot more relaxed than the elephants that we have at Pinda. The Pinda elephants come from a reserve called Wangi in Zimbabwe. And Wangi used to struggle quite a lot with poaching and hunting. And those elephants, even though they've been on this reserve for a very, very long time, they still remember the trauma of being hunted and being poached. So they are a little bit more aggressive than lots of other elephants, like the elephants maybe in Kruger National Park. So that's what I was thinking, even this guy in must is acting quite a lot more relaxed than some of the other elephant bulls that we have here on Pinda. Because we don't want to make him feel uncomfortable.
Sorry everybody, I was on the radio. I walked on these tracks and I managed to find at least one leopard. I think there were two though, but they ran away from me. And now I'm trying to find them again in this very, very, very long grass. They were right next to the road. They actually weren't far at all. Just followed the track for that male and walked like 5 meters, and he was lying about 50 meters in the bush, but couldn't see him at all. I just heard a little low head pop up and then him slinking off in this direction where we are right now. So I mean, I don't know, chances of us finding this cat is almost zero. The grass is so long that even when he was kind of bounding away from me, I could just see a little white tip of the tail just going as he was moving. I think I saw Mom or heard Mom as well, but it happened so quickly, it's difficult to say. I'm trying to now just check anywhere where there's a sort of raised point, because sometimes when they've been seen, then they like to go up on a mound just to go and check what actually happened. And have a look. The nice thing is it is on a crest, and it's quite dry up on this crest, so maybe, just maybe, if we can find it and it's static, we might be able to go off-road in that area. It will be, we'll have to just double check and make 100% sure, but that looks very dry in this area. The roads, everything are quite well drained here now, so if I can just get a view of them, that's going to help. This has been the most most frustrating little leopard experience. But I mean, we know there's one here now. Like I said, we saw it. So even in poor herds, the little low grumble from the vehicle, that's how close to the road it actually was. It just goes to show how difficult they are to see with this grass being the length it is, especially when they sit down. If they sit, you've got no price on it. In terms of size, it looks to me like Tandy's cub. I know, it's a brief visual in the long grass, so that makes life tricky in terms of figuring out who it is, but it looked like Tandy's little one. It was bounding away from us. Could have been Tandy herself, actually. But the track is for a young male, so I expect it to be him. No sign of him now that I can see. It's where we saw him was over there, and he was kind of moving to that road that we were just on. That's the kind of way he ran. But generally with a leopard, they don't move far. Once they've been spotted on foot, they trot a little bit, and then they just lie down and they hide again, and wait until everything calms, and then they stand up and start sniffing around. Sometimes with younger leopards, like cubs, they're curious, and so they'll come back to where you are, where they were spotted, just to see, okay, who was that? What happened there? Are they still around? You can do that as well. There's some impalas this side, which is great. They're going to shout if he comes this way again. You can see why we knew he was here. Have a look at this poo that's on the road. It's already dried a little bit, but there was a very fresh poo on the poo that we had yesterday that was all sticky. So there's older poo, which is this stuff on the left-hand side, and then this is the fresh one that is there. You can see the flies still on it. When we found it at first, it was still shiny and very much a wet little poo. So we knew that he had to be here close by. And it's not too far from where this was. I'm surprised the hyena didn't pick him up, though. I mean, if I could follow his track into the bush, I would have thought the hyena would have been able to as well. But you can see also what I was talking about the size of that poo. It's very, very small. It's only probably, I would say, the size of a banknote. In the entire length from the top of the frame to the right of the frame, or left to right, is about the size of a banknote. It's not very big at all. It's not had a huge meal in the last little bit. All right, let's go forward to where we had him and just see if he hasn't come back towards the road to check out what's happening. I suspect, though, he's gone in here and he's just sitting in the grass, watching and waiting for any sort of sign of mom. Mandy, quite right, they are. Now, I mean, obviously I didn't really want to walk into him. The idea wasn't to go tracking them in the bush. I don't, when we can't off-road, it seems like a pointless exercise. The idea was just to try and see which and as I stepped foot onto the side of that road, well, the edge of that road, he just bolted through and away from me. So it was just that he was very close. It was right here. He was lying just behind this little spike thorn, and then behind that, and then he just ran up and away from me towards that thicket in the background there. So yes, we now sit and think about how we're going to actually get a view of him. Like I say, it is fairly dry up here because of how high we are. We're right up against first rock. It must be, maybe we can off-road a little bit and just see if we can find him. I'll just double-check and see what my tires do. Ultimately, the time until off-roading is opened is all dependent on, discretion. You've got to kind of drive a little bit, and if you see that you're making any sort of indent, then you immediately stop and go back. But if it's holding hard and it's looking good, then it's okay to start, at least on the crest itself. So we'll just have to have a little look. But somewhere in that long grass lies a leopard. Even with the vehicle, if you were to off-road here, the length of this grass in places is about up to my armpits, and I'm 6'2". So a leopard that lies down is going to be, almost calf height. So seeing it is going to be near impossible, unless it's walking. If it's walking, then we'll be fine. We'll be able to pick it up. All right. Well, the waiting game begins now. We just have to sit in this area and hope that eventually this cat makes its way towards the road again. Whether it be further down this road or that other road that we were checking, one of these, it's going to make an appearance somewhere. in this general vicinity. Twitter pages, how many leopards would I estimate I've encountered? I don't know. I mean, in the Sabi Sands alone, probably close to 300 different individuals. If we add all the other reserves that I've been to, I don't know, I reckon I could be close, just individuals, could be close to maybe 400, 450. It's possible. Maybe even more. Let's be around there. I used to keep a record of every single one that I'd seen in the Sabi Sands. I must actually find it somewhere. But, you know, outside of the Sabi Sands, because I don't, you know, if you go into the Kruger and you see a leopard, you don't really know who they are. You don't kind of take too much notice of it in terms of following its progress. So it's a leopard, so I haven't really counted those. But I reckon it would be about, 400, 450 individuals. And in terms of number of times I've seen a leopard, I think in 2018, I think I had somewhere close to 500 sightings in a year. Or maybe I think it was even more than that. I'm just going to check it. I had it all written down at one point. It was a crazy number. So a lot is the answer to that. I've been very, 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 very spoilt in my life to have seen the number of leopards that I have. Whether they are, it continues and I still carry on seeing leopards all throughout my life, I don't know, but I certainly hope that will be the case. I'll be very, very sad the day that I don't go looking for them or have the prospect of going to look for them in the near future. They're very much close to my heart, as you can all imagine. I don't even know what to do with this now. We can try and check. It looks pretty hard. I just want to see. The crazy part is this leopard must have watched me walk past him twice before he actually lost his nerve. The ground looks pretty hard here. And the only reason, like I say, that I walked here was because I saw one footprint going up into this little open clearing. So I just wanted to check on this edge here. And like I say, he was just lying in the grass in the back here. The ground is holding firm. It doesn't seem to be any issues. I don't even know if we're going to find him here in this grass. It's just so thick and so long. And if he was on one of these little rocky outcrops or termite mound, it would really make life a lot easier. But the fact that he's not, like I say, chance of actually spotting him in this is pretty small. So whether it's even worth trying to off-road through this to find him, given the rain that we've had, probably not really. I'll probably find it's better just to sit and be patient and hope that we get another visual of him at some point. But chances are not good, I'm afraid. We needed him to kind of be lying on the road. That's what we needed otherwise. Or on the rocks itself, which I think he'll get to. I think during the course of today, he's going to eventually be on those rocks. Maybe with Sorry about the radio. Can't hear any birds squeaking or squirrels alarm calling either. Quiet. Sometimes when they're walking around, then you can kind of see which way they're going because you can hear a bird, then a squirrel, then another bird, or then, and that kind of gives you the direction. So the fact that there is dead silence and nobody is actually making any sort of alarm call would indicate to me that he's lying down here somewhere and not moving. Okay, I'm going to think a little bit and see what I'm going to do here, whether we're actually going to stay or maybe come back a little bit later. And maybe we'll have some luck if we just leave the area for a bit and then check the rocks towards the end of drive.
How insane is that animal?
This is out of this world. Fantastic. Good, Mama.
Wow, what a way to start off.
It's just such an incredible privilege to be out here. It just keeps on delivering.
There you go, there you go. Heart is pumping right now.
3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Look at this, everybody. We've got a live kill.
The crook's holding the tail. It's holding tight. Lucky wildebeest. There's nowhere to go. This is a disaster in the making.
This is the first leucistic zebra I have ever seen in my life.
Oh, here comes a lion. Run, little guy. Go on.
Something that I have never seen before in my entire life that you are now watching live.
My heart is in my mouth, everybody.
Look at this. It's gonna make it. It's going, it's going.
This is just too magical. Hi, little guys. That's great, isn't it?
Has it just pretended to be dead? That is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Look at that. Scuba Steve has got a friend.
You've got a friend in me. It couldn't be a better morning. This is just too special.
Oh my goodness, we've got a turtle.
How epic is the fact that we're coming to you live on the Chobe River? It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live and we're in Rwanda. This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
Look at that little zebra about to be born. There's the head. Oh, you clever mare. Well done.
I did not think I would ever face my fears like this.
Welcome back to Tswalu. What a different scene it is in comparison to yesterday morning. And this is where we had those beautiful left-hand waves being pushed across the surface of the water. And it is a very still, very tranquil scene here at this pan this morning. What a lovely scene. Myself and Craig were just talking about, we have actually noticed the water level dropping the past day or two. So what we thought we would do is we're actually going to make a marker with you folks. And what we're going to do is it's basically the marker would be on the water's edge, and then it would give you a really good understanding of how much water is being lost and how much water is dropping per day from this pan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a nice stick, and what we're going to do is plant the stick straight into the water's edge, and then we can come back tomorrow and see how much the water has actually resided. So can you see this one here, Craig?
Yeah, cool.
Alright, so here's our marker. It's fine and nice. Okay, there's our marker. That's at the water's edge, and we'll come back here tomorrow or the following day and see how much further the water line has dropped. I mean, we've noticed in the past days quite a lot that has moved out of here already. It's remarkable to see and understand things like this, because it's not going to hold water forever. I wish it could, but it does drop through fairly quickly. And then the last bit, when it gets down to a small area, smaller circumference, that it does seem to last a bit longer. There is hundreds of swifts, or hundreds, I would say. A few of them coming down to the surface of the water now to get a little drink. Just see all those dots moving. Those are all the swifts. Oh, there we go. It's a little hard to catch these birds in flight, and you see Craig just keeping the frame still and waiting for the birds to cross the frame, because to try and keep up with these birds is a real task. But they have dropped down. Gotta come down, Craig. Sure. Wow. Just an update on those two boys that we found earlier. They are very static. Oh, now they're all gone. Oh, wow. Gosh. Yo, Craig just wants to show you guys. I like Craig's enthusiasm. He would give it a shot regardless, eh? He's going to give it a try. There is so many of them. Lovely. Sure, incredible. So those two boys are very, very static at this point in time. We've left them. What we're going to do is just take a little view of what's happening here at this pan, and then we are going to shoot back there to see if there is any activity from those two lazy boys right now. I think they are just like me, waiting for the sun to warm up before they become mobile. And it looks we've just come through this section where they've moved through. It looks like they've come from the southern parts, moving north, because the tracks come from this pan across the road, and then they head up to where they are. Raphael, unfortunately there is no crocodiles this side. No crocodiles this side. We don't have water to sustain crocodiles in a long period. And then the temperature, if we look at reptiles, especially crocodiles and tortoises and turtles, the incubation temperature within the nest chamber is very, very important. Also, the structure of the riverbanks, or the banks, is very important as well. But no, unfortunately, no crocodiles in this area. You can see that I walked towards the water's edge without a single hesitant. Oh, look at the creep. Oh, dived. Without any caution. Obviously, if you are in an area with crocodiles, you must please just remain very cautious about how close you come to the water's edge. Because you think a crocodile is not fast from the water, it is very, very quick. And so are hippos. If you're in an area with hippos, obviously to be very, very cautious. A hippo is very quick out of the water and is very quick on land. People think, I'll just outrun a hippo. You've got two chances and they're both 0. Craig liked that one. That's what my mother used to tell me. And I used to try and pull a fake that I don't want to go to school. You've got two chances, my boy, and they're both 0. Yeah, the swifts come down for a drink now. Ibis busy calling behind us. It is very beautiful at this point in time. Okay. See Craig on it, boy. They only shout out when they're in flight. It's because they're actually afraid of heights. I'm just pulling everybody's leg. They're not afraid of heights. So generally in South Africa, South Africans do not enjoy hardy-dies because of the noise that they make, and especially early morning when you're trying to take a snooze, later into the morning. These birds tend to shout out, just like you heard there. They are fairly noisy, but very beautiful sound by my opinion. But generally, South Africans don't enjoy hardy-dies. Yeah, the pan is very tranquil at this point in time, and just the fullness of it as well is just such a beautiful sight. And I can't believe the difference that we had in comparison to yesterday. I mean, those Those little swells were made, and we're pushing right across this pan. So we've got a pair of little grebes, we've got some doves flying in and out, we've got all the swifts above us, those hardy-dars that have just landed, and then the group of Egyptian geese to the far end of the pan. Oh, they're gone. In the corner. Oh, there they sit. The young ones are learning from the parents now. Lovely scene. What we're waiting for is any hooved ungulates that come in here. Hopefully we have some zebra coming in here this morning, or maybe some springbuck, and that'll obviously be perfect if they move north, unfortunately for them. But yeah, that might be a potential scene that we could push into. But yeah, I want to see some hooved ungulates come into the water over here, and it'll be definitely worthwhile. Oh, all these swifts coming down again. Sorry, FC, could you please resend? Lovely to see these birds socializing like this. Have we ever seen eland at this watering hole? Yes, we've seen eland, oryx, zebra, all types of hooved ungulates have been in and around this watering hole. It's a very, very important watering point for a lot of animals within this given area. And obviously because of that in turn attracts the carnivores. So we have the wild dogs coming in here every now and then. We have the cheetah that come through here. This is part of the main territory of these two boys that we were just viewing a couple of minutes ago. So it's a very important stopway point for carnivores. And then as well as just south of the pan, we actually found tracks of mother and two, which she has moved southwest into the next block. So we think that we might go follow up on it. But yeah, very, very, very high activity level is found at this pan. It looks like a lake right now, the width of it. But let's send you over to Tristan and see what he's got for you guys.
We're still just sitting patiently, just trying to listen for anything that could give away where this cat has gone. I did go off-road just a little bit just to see, and the ground is actually surprisingly hard. It didn't even flinch at our driving, which is what I expected here. I mean, we're at the highest point that we could possibly be, quite rocky in this area as well, so I didn't expect that there would be anything to worry about here by now, at least. You know, that a couple of days ago maybe, but now it's all drained out. The seat blinds themselves will be no off-roading completely, but I just wanted to check a little bit just to see, and it's going to be completely different in every little area. We're going to just have to play it by ear slowly. But no sign so far. I mean, it's literally just a sea of grass, and I can't really find anything, and I suspect maybe, just maybe, if Mom wasn't there, and like I say, I thought I heard her, I didn't see her. Well, I saw a cat run away from here. Let's start there, but it looked like Tundi's cousin, given the track would be him. But I didn't see any sign of her. Now, if she's not here, he might have got a bit of a fright from me, because he is not a cat that has been walked into very much at all. Most of the time, he's been found with a car in his life. I don't think he's seen many many people on foot. So he might have just got a little bit of a fright, in which case he'll just lie low until Mom comes back, or until this afternoon when he gets a bit bored and wants to start wandering. I'm just going to go back here quickly and just check where I heard a hardy-dar making a noise. In the meantime, let's send you back across to Steve. Welcome back to the swinging tail of a beautiful big elephant bull as he grazes. If you watch carefully, you'll notice that he's busy. He's not the most sustainable of elephants, to be honest with you, because he's ripping the grass out. The entire grass is being ripped out by the roots, but he's only eating the seeds. You see that whole grass stalk goes into his mouth. And then he drops the entire plant on the floor, roots and all. So it is a natural disturbance that's taking place. The disturbance of the soil layer, of the grass layer. And there's an abundance of the grass out here, and predominantly signal grass that's being eaten. See how he's going to eat that bit, and then before the next bit comes, he drops it to the floor. Or maybe not just yet, but watch all of that on the right. That's all the roots. Roots covered in soil, and he drops it. So I've definitely seen elephants doing a lot better job than he does at feeding, but what it does is it leaves all these organic material, dead organic bits all over the place, which will then decompose, and they add a little bit of shade, they add some food variety for the termites, and it's all part and parcel of the process. He's obviously not trying to be destructive, it's just the way elephants are. Brunslang, no, the tusks are constantly growing to the life of an elephant. Very slowly. Very, very slowly. Unless the root itself is damaged, they are constantly growing. You can see bottom left of the picture, that fork-tailed drongo, very attentive to the movement of this elephant, looking for its grasshopper or praying mantis. Oh, got something. Trying to get something. See, so even little sticks like that in the middle of the open plain, probably deposited by an elephant's behavior, is allowed for a fork-tailed drongo to sort of sit right there by the elephant and catch food. Oh, that's a little young fork-tailed drongo. Can we go to him? On the right, you'll see he's actually still got quite a bit of rufous on his body. He's a bit mottled. Oh, he's going. So he's learning this. His mom is in close attendance. He's learning to follow the elephant. Must be quite a thing the first time. Mom's like, you see that big fellow there walking? Follow him, he'll provide you with food. I almost imagine the youngster scratching its head going, excuse me? Follow that thing? Just a little bite of a false marula. That was not what he's looking for. And like that, everybody, our animals disappear. So we had him in the open area for a fair amount of time. But off he goes. So we're going to continue on up this road. This is the road we had the Talamati pride coming down the other day, hunting the impalas that were all behind us here. Our know Tristan's over off on the east, so no one's checked this area, so we might be quite fortunate with something. The Talamatis were around just the southern western parts of Buvusuk yesterday. They might have turned south, we don't know. No one's followed up.
But they did look like they were heading into Manuleti. There's no sign of the Unkuhumas coming further west. So we've returned to Djuma. The roar of a lion. Kimmy, I have not known the Telematis long. I think I saw them first time sometime end of last year. Middle of last year. First time. Around lockdown is the first time I saw the Telematis. They've been around though. They spent a lot of their time in Buffelshoek when we didn't have access. They came into Djuma a couple times. We had their tracks coming in. We tracked them around. They went straight back out again. Now it seems with the absence of the Unkuhumas that the Telematis are sort of going, okay, we'll come claim these areas if no one's going to fight us for them. And so I was actually chatting with Tristan about it when we spent time with Telematis the other day. I remember talking to you all and saying how restless they seemed. They'd stand up and move and stand up and move and this way, that way, this way, that way. And it makes a lot of sense what he said to me. He says they're in a new area. You know, it's not really an area they spend a lot of time in. So they're sort of still like, okay, are we allowed to be here? You know, when you find yourself out of, you know, in a new home or waking up in a new bed somewhere, maybe you spent the night at a hotel or in a B&B, you wake up and you're kind of like, you're not quite settled yet. The smells are different. It feels different. Thought I heard something. Please, everybody, we rely heavily on your questions and comments for discussion. Send some discussion points through so that we can get into some deep discussions. Always nice to have deep discussions when things are a little bit slow. Done 3-hour solos on the importance of water. I don't mind the deep discussions. The importance of sustainable agriculture and water. I've done a solo 3-hour drive just on birds and their nests, which was quite fun. So please, discussion points are welcome. Give us things to talk about. Without your comments and questions, we'll just start looping, repeating things. Send them through, #WildEarth, throw them in the YouTube chat stream or go to the website and put them in on the question feed. Just gonna check Baobab Dam. Used to be called Sydney's Dam. I've been told that it's actually changed. There's new ownership of the camp nearby. It's called Baobab now. So now we get referred to it as Baobab rather than Sydney's Dam. It's actually quite a nice name, Baobab. The upside down tree. The tree that African folklore says that the creator took the tree and planted upside down so the roots are in the sky. Quite a funny story. If you've ever seen a baobab, it's a funny looking tree. But remnants of baobabs indicate how Australia and Africa were once together, because there's loads of baobabs in Australia. Jessica, I don't know of any carnivorous plants per se in Africa, naturally occurring carnivorous plants, that is. Lots of carnivorous organisms, but I don't know of any plants that naturally occur here. Let's pop in and have a look. And the Telematis here just the other day. Just going to stop here in case we lose signal and frame up from a distance, have a look with the binoculars, see what we can see. So on the other side is Manuleti. We are open to Manuleti, which then extends all the way through to Open Gate, which extends through to Ngala. So if you went through there pretty much straight in that direction over the top of that tall tree and kept going, you would end up at and beyond Ngala with Sebastian and Tess.
Well, sounds like Steve's having a pleasant morning with Ellies and various other things that he's had. Our morning has been far less rewarding and far more frustrating. I've left the area there. It's just like the more I think about it, the more I'm pretty sure he's just lying flat now and just waiting for us to leave for a while, and then he'll start to kind of go back to normal. So what I'm going to do is leave it completely, and then I'll go back this afternoon and hope that he's on the rocks or somewhere thereabouts. Maybe towards the end of the drive we can try, but I think now he's just going to be lying in the grass. I think this afternoon is a better call. Hopefully we'll get a bit of sunshine that will heat things up, and he'll move and try and get himself onto a little tree or onto somewhere a little bit more raised or pronounced that we can spot him easier. Like I said, what I didn't want is exactly what... Oh, no, don't tell me now. This is like torture when I can drive down these roads and see what I see in the sand right now. Tundi, must be. Okay, so we start again with another set of tracks, but this must be Tundi's track. You can see it coming down the road, walking along. It's a female, I mean, it could be Tlalamba, she does walk here as well, but more likely to be Tundi that is walking there. Fresh as well. These are decent tracks. I'm gonna just have to double check where these go. They look like they cut back into tortured. Of course they do. This is part and parcel of the punishment that is this time of the year, is that you see these tracks, you know that these cats are not far, but the likelihood of you finding them is not that good. But I'll try. Let's see what we can do. Let's try and see if maybe we can pick her up on one of the roads close by. There's a road that's not too far from here that goes back towards where we had the visual of that cub. So it would explain that she's not there at the moment, and we'll just try and track those down and just see if there's any sign of them. All right, so that's the plan. Let's try and find us a leopard on the road. Hopefully we'll have some more luck with mom rather than son.
Well, still enjoying the beautiful views and sounds here by this lovely pan, and just looking at these lovely young Egyptian geese. Very large population across the region. Very healthy bird in terms of its population size. They are under no threat whatsoever, although that they actually are applying a lot of pressure in certain areas on raptors, and raptors that nest on cliffs and on high ledges. These birds would actually displace, and they are very aggressive, so these birds would actually displace smaller raptors just with their sheer size, and actually displace them off nest sites, which is putting quite a lot of pressure on certain raptor species. This little group will be together for about 60, 70 days. I've read along the lines it can be variable. So anywhere from 60, let's say, to 80 days, these young chicks would be with the parents in and around this watering hole, and then decide to move off when the time is right. But very successful. You can see how many there were there. They don't go there anymore. We still haven't had an antelope come into this watering hole. There is a lot of freestanding water around at the moment in and around Tswalu. So we're hoping that 1 or 2 little things straddle in this way. But if they don't, what we're going to be doing is just going slightly north, and we are going to be revisiting those 2 boys. These swifts have been very entertaining, coming down for a little early morning drink. It's amazing. Think about the precision that these birds have coming down to the water and literally just skimming with their bottom mandible, skimming the water and taking a quick drink. And that's precision and as well as agility to keep the bird just above the water. Some birds feed in that manner, very specialized, like the African skimmer. African skimmer will actually put its bottom mandible into the water, slicing through the water while it basically flies horizontal with a body of water in order to capture prey. But just watching these birds swoop down like it just for a little drink is absolutely incredible. Yo, look at them. Taylor, so if you take a look at the main species over here is the little swift. You can hear from the call, it's almost like this high-pitched trilling noise. Don't know if you folks can hear it. It's very faint. But little swifts, they do form monogamous pairs. That means male and female will be joined up for a breeding season or multiple breeding season. And then they also are colonial. That means there'll be multiple nest sites or multiple nests within one site. And it's a remarkable enclosed bowl. It's actually consisting of feathers, grass that is glued together with the physical saliva of this bird. Now, swifts and swallows are very skillful as well when it comes to creating nests. Some swallows use mud, which they create these beautiful domes that are almost stuck to the ceiling. So they want to use caves or overhangs of rock ledges. Obviously, people's homesteads are perfect, especially the right angles of a wall meeting the roof, especially in the corner. That's where a swallow would find the perfect site to create this mud dome nest with an elongated entrance. But the little swift is a remarkable little structure. So pieces of grass and feathers which have been glued together into a dome-shaped bowl, and that would be on the roof of an available site. So, for example, somebody's house, or typically naturally it would be in a cave or on a cliff or overhanging ledge. That's where they would create their beautiful nest. So the sticky saliva would be the main property holding all that stuff together. And think about it, it has to be built in a manner that is safe for the female to be there, in there with the eggs, and then when the young hatch, for that structure to be strong enough to support the developing chicks as well. These are predominantly little swifts over here. Short, square tail, and they've got a little white saddle that runs around the rump of the bird, and a little white throat patch. It's very hard to get onto them to show you guys, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my book out very quickly, and then what I can do is show you the bird instead of Craig making everybody a little bit seasick of trying to follow this bird, because they are very agile flying birds, and to keep up with them is a very difficult task. And they become very tricky when IDing them. Alrighty, so little swift, let me just get a little something over here for us quickly. So that, there we go. Lovely. That there is what is in flight right now. Little swift, little white throat patch just underneath the chin. You can see the white rump or white saddle, and its very square-ended tail. This will be the dominant species that is flying in and around here right now, a little swift. And you can see it becomes very tricky when you want to ID these birds, but what you're relying on is you're relying on the width of this white saddle in conjunction with the shape of the tail. So you can see the little swift having quite a square tail. And for example, if you go to white-rumped swift, they look very similar. But then if you look at the tail, look how deep that fork is, and then a very, very narrow band across the rump of the bird. And then you can also use distribution. Distribution can also be a very, very important way of how you would ID a bird. If IDing becomes very difficult, then you rely on geographical positioning to make sure if it is the bird or not. But it all comes with, and obviously, a little bit of practice and relentless wanting to know what bird species it is. And if you haven't gotten to birding yet, I would really suggest it, because you can do it anywhere and all the time. You go to any continent, you can be birding. And it's really entertaining. So everything is done on the wing, only resting at night time in a nest site or on a suitable site where they would reside, and otherwise everything is done on the wing. So little grebe ducking and diving. I'm going to see if we can get our ropes on this little guy. But while we enjoy this scene, let's see what Tess has got for us.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala, everybody. I had a bit of a gremlin of a morning and I got myself nice and stuck in the mud, but I managed to get myself out with the jack and packing some wood underneath the tires. It took me a good while and I built up a very decent sweat. A few cuts and bruises later, but everything is fine. So now we're back on the road and we're back to looking for the Birmingham Pride. It's the first time I've gotten stuck in a very long time. I think with all the recent rains, everything has started washing away. So we actually did find, just before we got stuck, I found an area where the lions have been lying down and they actually crossed, looks like, into and beyond Ngala from the eastern boundary. And so I think they're in this area on the right-hand side. We didn't have any tracks of them crossing this particular road that I'm on. So they might be in the middle of the two roads at the moment, between this road and the one on the eastern boundary. And because we can't off-road, I can't go in there and check. But it is quite a beautiful morning. I'm very happy that it didn't get stuck in the blazing sun. With the overcast weather, I think I was lucky, although it was a very good workout. It's quite something jacking one of these cruisers up. You can imagine how much it weighs. It's a good few tons. It was a lot of fun, though. Thank you. I'm a very honoured member of the Marshmallow Club now. It was good fun. I think Sebastian was quite impressed with my skills there. Oh my goodness. Well, the sun's coming out now, so it seems like at least the weather was kind enough to stay good for me getting myself unstuck as badly as I got stuck. Now all I need is to come around the corner and the Birmingham Pride with the white lions are in the road waiting for me. That would be so good. So you wouldn't say you'd get stuck here. The road is actually looking very dry. But I think what happened was the rain washed away the tracks on the sides of the road and the piece in the middle still stayed the same. So the chassis, the bottom of the vehicle, actually got stuck. Going up a little hill, the chassis got stuck and the wheels just were not catching anything. So I had to jack it up a little, pack some wood underneath there, pack some rocks. Eventually, we got out. I would actually strongly suggest, if anyone hasn't tried doing it, you should try and jack up a car. It's
Stuart, I've been at Beyond Ngala for 3.5 years now, and it has been an absolute adventure of a lifetime. This place is very close to my heart. I think no matter what happens, I will keep coming back here as much as I can. Maybe even one day I might get married here, you never know. My brother actually had a very beautiful bush wedding. One day, hopefully I'll be lucky enough. Oh, Sean, I would think my most exciting animal sightings are either the wild dogs, especially when they have pups around a den site, or maybe leopard cubs. I am a sucker for leopard cubs. So I really think that I have the odd freak out moment whenever I see baby animals, especially baby cats, but leopards and wild dogs are definitely my favorites. I'd actually love to know what some of your favorites are. It'd be very nice to compare. And any cool stories of getting stuck and having to jack your car up, because I think that's a really fun experience. It's actually made my day to actually do these things. And I've done it before, but not in quite a while. So it's nice to know that my skills are not as rusty as I thought. I am completely covered in mud now, Holly, my favorite least asked about animal is probably a pangolin, actually, because we're basically lucky enough I've seen
Sorry about that, everybody, but we seem to be going backwards at the moment. I was going to try and find a rubbing post that Tristan was at yesterday, and I've taken a wrong turn. The road is very saturated either side, so I didn't want to reverse off at any point there, because, well, that just would have caused all sorts of difficulties. So, sorry about any technical difficulties there, and sorry that you had the back of my head for a moment. But, sorry, Tess, I'm sorry to hear that you got stuck. I know the feeling. I do know the feeling. But at least we can officially welcome Tess to the Marshmallow Club. Welcome. You now receive the newest Marshmallow Club award, which means that I wasn't the last one to get stuck. Yes! Not that that's a good thing, everybody. No one likes to get stuck. But it happens. It happens. I think I was of the old guard, the last of the Wild Earth presenters to get stuck. I think. So, Tess, it is an auspicious club that you've joined. Many great names and faces. Okay, well, we're going to head down to a little dam called Rubbing Post to see if I can find those lesser moorhens that Tristan's been talking about. And while we do that, we send you back over to Tswalu Kalahari.
Well, Tess, welcome to the Marshmallow Club. This is the first I'm hearing about it. We have a beautiful bird and something that we don't see very often. Yeah, there it goes. There it goes. Oh, let me go forward. That is a great spotted cuckoo. Very nice bird to see. Did you see where it went to, Craig? Oh, lovely. I like that. Okay, let me just go forward. Okay. Just listening to my co-pilot here. great spotted cuckoo. We don't get to see that very often. Very sneaky bird. Although if you look at cuckoos, their general family behavior, they are very sneaky birds. Where is you, little bird? Okay, maybe let's wrap around here. Let's get our position into a more favorable format for you folks. So its color scheme is very, very, very distinctive, having almost like a grayish mantle with a white washed chest, a bit of a off-white throat patch as well. Let's wrap around here. Jaw. It smells like a carcass, Craig. There's no carcass in this tree. Okay, we'll come back here now. Very strong smell. It actually could be carnivore scat that I'm picking up. But we need to come back to that tree and just make sure. Let's wrap around and see if we can get a view of that beautiful bird. Those cheetahs seem to be still sitting in exactly the same position, so taking it very easy. I've got an extra cup of coffee I think that they might want. And now the search is on. Obviously its very long tail in flight is very distinctive. And its flight pattern also, very distinctive flight pattern. Hasn't got very long wings. And with that, in conjunction with that very long tail, you know it's a cuckoo. Starling. So this bird should be right around over here somewhere. And let's see if we can get a view of this lovely bird. Great spotted cuckoo. I've only ID'd this bird on Tswalu 2 or 3 times. So for me it'll be a real treat to be able to just to see and enjoy this bird. There's our cheetah still sitting. I think they've taken a long weekend. They've taken a public holiday today. And they've extended their relaxation period. So they have not moved a muscle. Well, they have, but not that much. So these two brothers taking it very easy. There's more activity. Their heads are at least up. They're looking around. Amy, hi, great question. How many different breeds of cheetah are there? There is only the cheetah. There's only this individual. You don't have other species of cheetah. You just have this species of cheetah. Then you'll have cheetah in different areas, which obviously might have a slight variation in coat and a slight variation in weight, and as well as behavior, geographical variation. But across Africa, you just have this beautiful cat roaming the vast and open plains. And see that individual's head's up and the other brother's gone flat cat. And cheetah only do that when they are very, very relaxed, because there are so many other predators that would obviously be a huge negative influence on them. A cat would only do that if it is at a very, very high degree of relaxation. And it knows that there's nothing in the area that could potentially sneak up on it. That sun now is really starting to turn the dial up from our very chilly morning that we've had. This morning has been very, very brisk. I said to Craig, it literally feels like the onset of winter. It's like winter starting early. Moon, Tswalu's endless change of landscape is something so entertaining. I know I've mentioned that before, that you don't need an animal out here to be entertained. just driving around and the sheer beauty from the mountains to the rolling dunes, to the vast open plains, it is just constant eye candy and something that is constantly stimulating. And if it's not that, then the colors, from season to season continuously keep you at grip. It is such a beautiful thing to see, this change and flow of colors, but then also just watching this dress change as you start to understand it more. It is really, really amazing. We are looking at the western section of this beautiful piece of the Coronaberg Range, and they don't look very high, but myself and Craig, I know, but Craig really found out that these hillsides are very deceiving. It doesn't look high, but once you're at the base and you start moving up the base, so Craig's going to show you where we walked up a few days ago. We had a little technical issue and we had to put on the hiking boots and venture up to the tippy top to the right of that high section on the right-hand side of the picture. And they are very deceiving. So you hit the one almost bend, and then when you get to that, you see it goes higher, and then when you get to that high section, then you see it bends again, it goes even higher. And eventually when we got up there, it was worthwhile, the effort of scaling that beautiful hillside. It took us about an hour and a half, but being on top there and the view that we had, the vista of the openness of Tswalu going out west was just such a treat. I've made a joke with Craig, maybe we should try and take the whole broadcasting gear up there. He looked at me like I was a little bit mad, because it would be blood, sweat and tears to get up there with the broadcasting equipment. But I think it'd definitely be worthwhile. Just trying to see where this cuckoo has gone. But a really, really important structure here at Tswalu. The mountains themselves, and then if you look where the mountains meet the sand, that now creates a unique habitat for a lot of animals to inhabit. Think about antlions, think about butterflies, ants, the termites. The southern harvester termite would be focusing predominantly the activity within these mountainous areas. The northern harvester would be in the flats and the sandy areas. But these mountains are very, very important to Tswalu's diversity. And then you can see, look how tiny that cheetah's head is. Now that you are looking at that hillside, and corresponding to the cheetah, it's only about 40, 50 meters away from us, sitting in the grassy plains. Seems like that cuckoo has given us the slip, so we'll let it be. It was a very quick view that we had there, but nonetheless we still are very grateful. Beautiful. Oh, Maggie, how old are these two brothers? These two boys are about 10 years of age. They have lived a very fruitful and very long life. I'd say they're about 10, 11, I think close to 11, so I'd say between 10 and 11 years of age. If you think about it, they have lived a very, very healthy and long life. Normally in the wild, you're looking at cheetah having an age of between 8 and about 14. That also depend on carnivores, large carnivores within the area, which obviously cheetah are detrimentally affected by. So, between 10 and 11. And we are starting to see young coalitions move into this area. So there is signs that there might be new blood in this area in the near and coming future. And if you look at if a coalition of males comes through that are numbering 3 or 4, that would really give these boys a run for their money. And they're starting to get old. And we need new blood within this area. So a new coalition coming to this area, we would have some very entertaining scenes when that does happen. So the wear and tear in the teeth, if we get up close and personal to them a little bit later, you'll see the wear and tear in the teeth. And they also got very yellow teeth. As an animal gets to its old ages, the teeth do become quite yellowish.
Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a Wild Earth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature. For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique Wild Earth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient quartzite Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with Wild Earth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite animal in the Kalahari has to be the aardvark. Its unique appearance, its ethology, and as well as ecology within this vast ecosystem is amazing, and something that I have been really lucky to experience on foot here at Tswalu.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. In a world full of upheaval, we all need a quiet and safe space to breathe. A place where anxiety and stress don't exist. A place where life carries on as normal. Escape to nature with Wild Earth.
Welcome back to Rubbing Post Pan. The reason it's called Rubbing Post Pan is there's a stump on the way in here that's been rubbed beautifully by rhinos and whoever else likes to rub. But there's a pan that Tristan saw 2 lesser moorhens the other day, which is a very rare sighting. I saw one in a pan on Juma last year, not to be seen again. And I had a brief visual of one in this floating vegetation on the other side, but we haven't managed to get it on camera. They're very shy, very skulking birds. Skulking means they like to hide in these sort of dense, thicket, rank vegetation-like areas. And if we're really quiet, he might come out and show himself or herself to us. Being an omnivore, they feed on a wide variety of organisms, from mollusks to frogs and seeds, and insects. They've got big feet for swimming, as well as for walking on the mud and on the lilies. As a bird, we get very excited to see these kinds of birds. It's a very healthy little system, this. There are so many dragonflies flying around. Dragonfly are a very good indicator of a healthy system, and there's a very important reason for that. Like frogs, dragonflies are amphibious, which means that they have a two life cycle. The eggs are laid in the water, whereby the nymphs hatch in the water, damselflies and dragonflies. So they live in the water, and then after feeding enough and eventually metamorphosizing into a dragonfly, they come out as a dragonfly. So they live a lifespan in the water, which means if the water was polluted or in bad condition, they wouldn't do very well. So whenever we do assessments of rivers or assessments of water holes for condition, it's important because you could take a sample of the water, especially when we're talking about a river. But taking a sample of river water is like taking a snapshot in time. You're not actually covering the entire amount that's going on. But organisms that live in the system have to live in that system as it's changing and moving. For example, there could be a farmer dumping pollutants in the river upstream, and you took the sample 5 minutes before he did that. And so you wouldn't actually get a representation of what's going on in that river. Whereas the insects and the frogs, of course, insects, very, very important, especially the ones, the aquatic insects, very, very important when it comes to developing a health assessment of what exactly is going on in the water itself. And dragonfly and damselfly larvae found in these water systems is a very, very good indicator. Well, Tristan has found a slow-moving animal, or maybe he will be moving fast when the sun comes out.
Well, we haven't found our leopards on the rocks, but we have found a plated lizard, a giant plated lizard. They're all over these rocks. If it's a warm afternoon and you come up here, just see them scurrying everywhere to try and get back under the rocks, and then they come out once you park off again for a while. But I thought we had left here. I thought we were done with here for the day. I was like, we'll come back this afternoon, but no. We had to bump into tracks for Thandi coming back into this direction, and good tracks too. And we followed them, and I left them at the Camp of Torchwood, which is less than 300 meters from where I am right now, probably even about 250, and about 100 meters from where we had visual of the cub, but no tracks as yet coming to where the cub is. So now I've got to try and see where she is. I was hoping I was going to find her, and then we're going to find her tracks going towards where the cub was, and then the two of them were going to meet when we got here, and then we're going to come onto the road. But that hasn't happened. Of course not. It's been one of those mornings where that would be far too easy. The good news, though, is I got the all clear to be able to use our to off-road a little bit on these crests. So if we can get a visual, we can follow them, which will be nice. Just a matter of timing now. It's getting quite late in the morning, so I'm not sure if we'll find them this morning, but at least for this afternoon, there's some semblance of hope. Eventually we'll get it right. I mean, it'll be third time lucky this afternoon to get them on camera. It is deeply frustrating sometimes. This is one of the things about this job that can be tough. You know, if you've got guests and you do tracking things, they often see what's going on. Like in Paul in the back of the car, he heard the leopard when I was on foot, and so they get involved in the whole thing with you guys. I feel always so bad because we spend so much time trying to find it, and then when we can't actually deliver it at the end. I know it can be a little bit frustrating for some of you, and I hope that you bear with us. We'll get it right eventually, and especially because we're going to have a bit of sun today. It's only going to serve to dry up things a little bit more, which is opening up things slowly and surely, and we'll eventually get a worthwhile sighting out of this. I'm just happy that I know that they're here. I was obviously, when the flooding happens, you always have that kind of concern where they're going to go, and then when we saw Kachav and the cub in the same place, there's also a worry there that maybe the cub, unfortunately, unfortunately has in some way been kind of part of an altercation with them. You never know, really. So it's always good to get that confirmation later on, and that was nice, 100% confirmation that it was him. Like I say, it was a bit small to be Kuchava's cub. Also, I've never seen Kuchava's cub all the way up here. And this is kind of Tandi's cub zone, and the last few days the tracks are evident that they've been around. So I'm almost 90% sure that it's him that we saw running away from us. Critter Freak, you say you love reptile sightings. They're cool. I mean, we obviously don't see reptiles as much as we would probably like to. You know, it's tricky for us. A lot of the reptiles are fairly shy. They hear the car coming and they scuttle off into the long grass. And so we don't see huge amounts of them. Obviously, crocs and monitor lizards we get fairly regularly, but you know, things like little bushveld lizards, the scaled lizards or plated lizards. These great giant plateds are much easier to find. But there's girdled lizards. You know, those things we don't see huge amounts of. So anytime we can get a bit of time with the reptile, is always fascinating to watch. And of course, this reptile is doing what most reptiles would do after a cool afternoon. It was very chilly yesterday afternoon, and this morning it's been fairly cool to start with. It's just basically activating its body. It's having a little suntan on the rock and warming and absorbing all of this heat in order to get that body temperature back up again. And then from there, they'll be fairly active. They'll rummage around all over this area, finding all kinds of things. And it's actually got the ones that live here particularly, I mean, they have a 10-star suite, because you can see they've got this little rock, so if there's danger, then they just go in underneath the rock. They don't have to worry. They've got a bit of a lawn in front of the rock, which is nice and fairly short considering the time of year that we're in. And then in front of that, they've got their little swimming pool or / lake side view, which attracts a number of different things. Sometimes they'll get sightings of leopards here. This is where I've had Tandi and cub drink before. You might find, you know, an impala come and drink here. We had a hyena drinking on the rocks this morning. So, you know, it's a perfect little place. You've got game viewing, you've got scenery. We also have an incredible view from up here of the entire sort of eastern side of Torchwood. And to the south, actually. From here you can even see Stwijskoppie on Mala Mala. So you've got a lot of kind of potential here. So it really is the prime seat, is this rock, and that's why we have so many of these giant plated lizards up here. Like I say, sometimes you can come on in the afternoons, and pretty much every rock that is prominent on here, that is raised slightly off of the normal kind of big rock structure, will have a plated lizard on it. The other day, I think I counted like 21 of them here, just in one little section. I was sitting with Tandi's cub the one day, and I was just kind of using my binos on the rocks to see, and there was 21 of these little lizards. They're all over the place up here. Some of them are quite tame too, because when people stop for coffee here, it's not that it's their fault. They just, you know, they eat what we have in South Africa called a rusk, which is a type of kind of hardened biscuit, and that gets dunked in the coffee. And sometimes those crumbs will just drop. And these guys realize that that's the case, and they then come in and they kind of pick up those crumbs. Not that they probably should be eating it, but, you know, it's difficult to notice when one crumb drops. It's one thing, though, is for people not to feed them. That's what you don't want. But the odd crumb here and there is not going to do too much to them, I don't think. But always find where there's prominent spots where there's drink stops in these guys that they're actually very tame. They come right up to people. And that's generally because people aren't doing anything to them. So Stacey, I mean, this is I would say a medium-sized individual. It's not a huge one. They get to probably, I mean, in centimeters, I would say with the tail, 60 centimeters would be a big one, but they get quite fat. I'm not sure what the record length is for them, but about 60 centimeters is about as big as they get, or that I've seen personally. They don't get much bigger than that, but that's still a fair-sized lizard. And like I say, as they get older, they tend to get wider rather than longer. Some of them are very, very fat. Then you see them later in their lives. There's one here that I've seen. It's like Godzilla of First Rock. It is this behemoth that's about that length, but it has the biggest, fattest stomach you've ever seen. In fact, at one point I saw that its legs were struggling to walk because its tummy was so big. It was kind of pushing its legs to the point where the legs were on little tippy toes, and it was kind of tippy-toeing around, which is quite an entertaining image that I've just had in my head. It's like one of those little cartoons, where the little toes move and the feet don't, as it kind of goes over the rocks. But its little tummy was too big for it to really kind of get things moving properly. You can see how long the tail is as well. That's the thing with these guys, is they're deceptive because, the body itself is not huge, but the tail is very long. Tony, I'm not actually sure, to be honest with you. I'd imagine they do. A lot of lizards, particularly in areas like this, would have to have come up with some way to have eggs hidden. So I'm not sure if they bury them or if they create a little mud nest. Sometimes with geckos, you'll find that I've seen it in camp, the geckos using an old wasp mud nest, and they've laid their eggs inside there. But these guys, I'm not sure. Maybe under these rocks, they have a little small nest, and then they put them in underneath there. Most of their life is spent dwelling underneath rocks, so I would imagine that's more likely where they're going to do it. And obviously they can't bury eggs on rocks, so maybe it's just in the crevices they find a place and they lay the egg right up against the rock and just kind of make a small rudimentary nest in order for those eggs just to stay in one place and not move around too much. But that would be my guess. I honestly I've never ever come across eggs for one of these guys, so I'm not 100% sure what their nesting style would be or eggs laying style would be, but I think rocks is probably... There we go. The South African National Biodiversity Institute, it's a mouthful for anyone, says that they lay their eggs in crevices. See, a bit of deduction, a little bit of common thinking, and understanding that where they live in their habitat, that the likelihood would be a rocky substrate and somewhere where that's fairly well hidden from predators. Good, we got that one pretty right. I honestly, like I say, with burying of eggs, it's a tricky thing because generally if something's been buried, they're living in a place where they can dig. And these kind of areas aren't really for that, so it would stand to reason that they weren't. But I wasn't sure. It's better always just to confirm rather than kind of spewing nonsense just for the sake of it. Good. Little plated lizard, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to go back to where I think Tandy would have popped out. It's been quite a while now. Hopefully she's still moving about and on her way to that cub. It'd be so nice if we get her on the road and she calls and the cub comes out. Let's put that into the ether and cross fingers. That's what we're going to try and aim for right now. Whether that works, I'm not 100% sure is going to be the case. I actually was on top of the rock here for a reason. I was trying to... check if there's a little pan below, but you can't see it anymore from the road. So I was checking that little pan to see if there's any sign of this little cub. He likes to sit, there's a little tree there, and he sits with his little fat tummy on the branch sometimes, or he lies at the base of that tree where there's shade, right next to the water, but it's so overgrown. I doubt that he would be there now. It's just too thick. I'll check also this, just to check carefully if he isn't inside here. This particular little spot is sneaky. You see the impalas when they walk past here, they are so nervous because I have seen Tundi and him underneath this, both of them, and you wouldn't even know. There's only one little gap that you get in underneath this tree, and it's right here. You see there's this little hole in this kind of structure, and it's really thick and dense. So if a leopard's in there and an impala walks past and they're not paying attention, get themselves into a little bit of trouble. But you can see there's just this one little gap that goes inside, and in there you can kind of see what's going on underneath this tree. And I'm afraid to say there's no leopard in there today, but maybe this afternoon. Maybe this is where we'll find them this afternoon if we don't get any luck now. It's a sneaky spot, this. I'd imagine a few impalas have come short walking past a leopard here. We haven't been traversing Torchwood for all that long, but I'm pretty sure that this has been utilized in the past as a little hunting post. You get in underneath there, wait for impalas to come, and as they come around this corner, because the impalas somehow like to be on these rocks, and then they go and drink. I don't know why this particular area right around this tree is where they like to hang out. They kind of come off the road and then onto the rocks from there. So it's the perfect spot to hunt. Yes, Franklins, I hear you. Okay. That's not an alarm call. That's just them having a little conversation to one another. It's a little morning chinwag over coffee, maybe, that they're having. It's not what we're looking for. We wanted mass panic, birds flying everywhere, and then a little spotty bum to emerge with that look of confusion on its face from chasing Franklins and missing. See, okay, I've got to picture these things properly so that we can actually, materialize what we are hoping for. All right, so I'm gonna just check one more time where we last had him, see if there's any sign of Thandi arriving. In the meantime, let's send you across to Tess.
Welcome back to Ambient Ngala. I really hope Tristan finds that leopard. He is adamant that he will find it this morning, so I really hope that he does. So I'm still looking for the Birmingham Pride. So we could hear some lions calling when I was sitting with the Ross male this morning, and then he started calling back, and I think it was coming from around this area. There's a nice big clearing, and we're now just on the inside of the Timbavati River. He was just on the southern side. So I'm really, really hoping that there might be some lions around. We've got quite a big cloud bank coming in. We are expecting a very, very small chance of rain, but I don't know if I should believe that with the amount of clouds coming in. But hopefully it does mean that at least the predators are more active today. Some impalas right at the southern end of this clearing. If we probably won't be able to off-road for another maybe 4 days still. It's going to be quite a long time. We had a lot of rain and the ground is just still so wet. So even some of our roads are still closed for obvious reasons of me joining the Marshmallow Club this morning. So we definitely don't want to push it because we'll damage quite a lot if we do off-road in areas that are still wet. So I would think maybe another 4 days still, especially since we need actual sunlight to dry it out. And at the moment, we've just been stuck in the overcast weather. So it is going to extend it quite a bit longer than usual. But we'll have to see. Maybe we'll get lucky and have some good sunshine the next few days. A really nice thing about being out here anyway, even if you can't off-road, is there are so many places you can still go that you can still find. Emmanuel, I have seen a lot of snakes on Ambient Ngala. So the most common ones that I've seen would probably be things like cobras, black mambas. I saw a boomslang the other day, and a lot of puff adders as well. So it really does just depend. In this kind of weather, we might not see them as much because it is cooler, but on hot days, we often find them out in the roads or on termite mounds, anywhere that they can get some nice sun to warm up. There's also a lot of African rock pythons, and in fact, looking at these impalas, I have actually heard of an African rock python here eating an impala. They can get incredibly big, so even impalas aren't always safe from snakes. But I think majority of the snakes that I've seen have actually been the black mamba. And they move incredibly fast, and we normally just see them either crossing the road or climbing a tree. So you can see these impalas are actually really, really nice and relaxed at the moment. This is a bachelor herd, so it's probably about 10 or 12 males together. And because it's overcast, they don't need to be in the shade. And these two are really enjoying the fresh green grass that's growing just on the sides of the road in what's called the herb layer, which is the layer just above the soil that's got the richest nutrients in the grass. And impalas are really lucky that they can actually digest pretty much any of that. They have what we call a split lip. It doesn't actually mean that their lip is split. It just means that what's a kind of, I guess, a common term, meaning they eat both leaves and grass. So they do very, very well. They're very adaptable. And they're looking nice and relaxed. I would say that there might not be predators around here. Impalas are one of the most... Yes, they do look very clean. Everything is looking nice and shiny at the moment. Clean, groomed up, green, fresh. But impalas are one of the most reliable alarm calls that you can have if there are predators around, especially because they are in herds all the time. I actually just saw there was a Burchell starling in the road behind that one. So you can see in between feeding, he's actually looking up. He's turning his head in different directions, listening, smelling, looking. And that's just to make sure. It doesn't mean that he has actually heard something. He's just checking. You've got to be very, very careful when you are any of the herbivores out here, but actually even the predators as well. Brian, no, it's only the male impalas that have horns. It's not one of the species where both male and female will have horns. So the males have these very distinctive horns that curve upwards and then backwards and then up again. The females have no horns at all. However, there have actually been some recorded cases of females with horns, and that's usually from a hormone imbalance or a birth defect, and the horns will not actually look like this. They're incredibly thin, and they're usually deformed, so they don't grow upwards. They might grow outwards or downwards, or even curl a bit, but it is very rare. I've never seen a female with horns, but I have seen pictures of them and heard of them. It is very, very rare though. So most of the antelopes that we find here, only the males would have horns. Some of the slightly different things would be some of the bovines, like buffaloes, the males and females have horns. And then some of the less common things like reedbuck as well, the males and females have horns. Springbuck as well. But it is so peaceful here. And you can actually see really nicely, especially with the grass so long now, with the markings on that impala. You can see the grass layer comes up to kind of halfway up the body where the color change happens from that beautiful, bright, rich, reddish brown to the beige. And then the stomach is what would be white. And so it kind of shows you how well they blend in, because those colors are designed to break up the shape of the body and camouflage him in the long grass. So if his head is down, he almost looks a bit like a termite mound. And there's actually quite a few of them have been scent marking here as well, which is, there's actually one doing it just a little bit to the left, so that impala is actually walking towards him, but they all seem to be moving now, where they actually take a stick or something on a bush and they'll actually rub their face against it, particularly just below the eyes. There's some glands there, and they rub themselves on those bushes. Actually, that one is doing it now. There you can see him scratching, and it's the exact same branch that the previous male did it on. Jonathan, no, we don't get any springbuck here at Anbion Ngala. They don't occur here naturally, so it's a bit too overgrown and wet here for springbuck. They prefer more arid areas like the deserts, but also like some areas of the Eastern Cape, further south where it's a little bit drier. They actually don't occur naturally here. So the only animals that you will find in the Kruger National Park are animals that naturally occurred here. But unfortunately, no springbuck here. There's actually quite a lot of impalas spread out through this clearing. There's a few more behind the thickets in front of me as well. And that is a pretty good indicator that the lions might not be here. They are somewhere along the banks of the Timbavati River. So what I can actually do, I'll drive to this next crossing and show you flowing. So the flow slowed quite a bit overnight, the night before last night, but since yesterday it actually hasn't slowed at all. So the riverbank is still just as wide as it was yesterday, or the body of water. So it's actually quite interesting to see that there's still a very steady flow of water. It means there's definitely still been a lot more rain closer to the mountain range on our western side, because that's where the river flows down from. You can see there's still quite a lot of water in here. I'll come down into the cross.
Sorry about that, everybody. I don't know what technical issues have befallen you. But we're just checking one of our watering holes. And because you've come to us so quickly, you just have to take a moment for Theo to get back on the car. So every now and again, we do have to go to the toilet. So apologies for that. So you can have a look at my face for a few minutes while we wait for Theo to get back. At Tamboti Dam here, we're just having a look to see if maybe anything has popped out. And they've got an Egyptian goose that has got a very interesting looking wing configuration. I don't quite know what's going on. Welcome back, Theo. Okay, well, it sounds like Tswalu Kalahari is caught up with some giraffe, so let's send you over to them.
Well, welcome back to this part of the world, a very sunny and very warm part of the world. Lovely young male giraffe we have here in view. So just then there was a question asked earlier about different species of... Oh, look on the left here, Craig. Sneaking up on us. Just holding there tight, folks. The different species of cheetah. So I don't think I answered that question in the correct manner. So you get cheetah, but then you have variations depending where you are. Depending where you are on the continent or in the world. And there's 5 variations or subspecies they could refer them to as. But you get cheetah, and then you get these variations within the species itself. Same as giraffe. You get giraffe, and then you get different variations depending where you are in the country or on the continent. Correctly put. Hello. So I wasn't really happy on how I answered that question. I apologize, but I hope that clarifies things. And to get more information, I'll go do some research this afternoon, and then I'll just relay that info later on. Let's just watch his throat there, Craig. Oh, don't walk away. It's a very, very light individual. Oh, what a color contrast. My word. Just going to the toilet. Very tiny little pellets. If you can get us in there quickly, Craig. I know it's not the thing you want to be looking at, but it's quite remarkable to be seeing the droppings of giraffe. People think because it's such a large animal that its droppings too would be very large. Although being a ruminant, that very efficient digestive system breaks down everything. And a giraffe's droppings will just be tiny little pellets. Not large at all in comparison to this very, very large-bodied animal. But that tummy obviously breaking down and extracting every last little bit of nutrients out of the vegetative matter. Botswana. It wants to go to Botswana. So being a ruminant like this individual it is busy ruminating right now. You can eat a certain quantity of vegetative matter, but then extract maximum amount of value out of it, unlike those elephants with their very, very poor digestive hindgut fermenting systems. What we're going to be doing is those cheetahs have moved off into the shady parts, and it's quite dense. They're actually sitting in very thick grass where we can't get close to them at all without disturbing them. Let me pull forward there for you, Craig, because that giraffe is just busy browsing here on our right-hand side. Lovely. Victoria, with giraffe, it's very easy. So the most prominent thing that you can see on that animal would be its head remaining upright quite a lot. But if you look on top of the head, those two upright projections, ossicones, you can see how the light is actually shining off of them. They are bald. There's no hair on top of those ossicones because of the wear and tear that these males go through from male and male combat. And then as well as they are very thick and very, very straight. Because males use them as active weapons, they become worn down, and then also they need to be stronger for competition. And then we can look at the hairy belly button and then between the legs there, but that's another story for another day. Whereas in a female, her ossicones will be very thin, very dainty. They will bend into one another, and they will have black hair presented on top of those ossicones. So just looking at just the shape, we don't even need to see the hair, just the general shape. Thick and dead straight, males, thin, bending into one another, female. Very, very easy. It's a wonderful thing, adding male and female every now and then, especially when you get into it. Other certain animals can become quite tricky, but it does become fairly enjoyable. But let's start up and let's move north here. We're going to see if we can catch our little Makala group moving off from the burrow system. We are about 200 meters just south of the burrow system. So what we're going to do is we're going to start up and we're going to slowly drive and just keep a watchful eye out here to our western section because these animals will be on the move now, and hopefully we can get a little glimpse of them while they're foraging. Looking like Elvis Presley. And obviously it would be lovely to see these animals.
Well, unfortunately, no luck, so this afternoon is going to be the plan to go back there again and try and see if we can settle the score, because right now it's Tandy and Cub 2 and us 0. Yesterday afternoon and this morning they've managed to foil us somewhat. I mean, we found them, which is the good news, is that we know that they're there because we actually saw one of them. So that's at least a win. I suppose maybe we can call today a draw, because we actually did find them, but just didn't get them on camera. So a draw is what we'll go for the morning drive. But they definitely won yesterday. And they were there the whole time yesterday. It's just, grass is long, didn't pick them up. But now we're just slowly bumbling home. It's that time of the day. It's been an interesting morning from our perspective of just trying to find them and see how sneaky a leopard can really be. It just goes to show sometimes if they don't really want to be found, they're not going to be. That cub was walking around us the whole time, behind us, on top of our vehicle tracks where we were driven. We also, we got to those alarm calls a little bit later. We got there as it started. I think we would have picked him up. But anyway, it's okay. It's good. This afternoon, at least there's some promise and an idea of what we're going to get up to. These roads are still so wet, though. It's crazy. I mean, this road normally is not like this. Even when it does rain, you get a little bit of a seep that goes over in patches here, but the entire road is still flowing. You can actually still see the water moving. down this road, which is, to me, is mind-boggling. I didn't think it would be this bad still. This is why we were saying with off-roading, you've got to be so careful at the moment. Because these roads are all compacted, whereas the bush isn't. And so when you drive in the bush somewhere like this, you won't see this water in the grass. The next thing you'll just sink. So you're going to have to be super careful going forward. Really just restricted to the highest crest for the next little route. Otherwise, I think there's going to be a lot more people joining the Marshmallow Club. Yeah, we're heading slowly home. Hopefully we'll get some last-minute action as we make our way there.
Yes, you are back at Tswalu. Welcome back. We are just repositioning to this to get a better view of this lovely large hoof animal. And there we go. One which moves gracefully, and you can see that is very evident looking at this lovely young bull. It does really move almost effortlessly. Almost looks like it's gliding across the landscape. White-browed sparrow weavers busy saying good morning. And onto the shepherd's tree it goes. What did you hear? Did you hear something, giraffe? Just watch giraffe for days and days. It's like a zebra. You never get tired of looking at it. Been asked that a lot, don't I? Get tired of looking at the same animals. It's never the same animal, and the behavior is always different. So it's constantly entertaining and stimulating. Those white patches behind the ears. Only spot that you will not find patterning on a giraffe is behind the ears. Let me just move slightly forward for us there, Craig. He might do it for us. Bless me. Excuse you. I pinch myself every morning, Susie, of how lucky I am to be able to be doing this as my passion and as my career. I count myself very, very lucky to be able to understand what I want to do in life. There's another one just down the corridor over here, Craig. This chap is very camera shy. Let's reposition quickly again. Let's actually just go, this little gap over here where we can get a good view of this beautiful animal. But we are all very blessed as humans, Susie. No matter where you are, count your blessings. Yeah. Be sure to join us this afternoon. Jump back on board here with this live and interactive safari. We'll see you later.